This week's episode of I Was a Teenage Film Snob is not brought to you by DVD players for long road trips. Welcome to I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob, and this week we are continuing our travel across the US. We had a great international guest last week, first timer, and today we have another first time guest on the show. I was fortunate enough to meet today's guest while appearing on the We Love Horror podcast, hosted by our good friend Michael, and was just blown away by how enthusiastic and positive and excited he was about movies. Not Michael, obviously Michael as well, but today's guest was this way. And I thought I was enthusiastic and positive about films, but this guy definitely gives me a run for my money for sure. He's a huge film fan. He's big on TikTok, so I'm too old for that sort of thing. But if you like TikTok, you got to check him out as well. And he's just a genuine sweetheart. I've been wanting to get him on the show for quite a while, so really happy to have him finally today. Please welcome to the show the man with the best name online as well. It's Kyle Poppert. Hey, Kyle, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Wow, that was such a heartfelt intro. My goodness, thank you.
I always try to like do a nice intro, uh, but
Very
uh,
nice.
but it's all
Yeah.
genuine. Like I remember when Michael told me you were joining, I had no idea who you were. Like just because, as I said, I don't use TikTok and I'm a hermit by nature. But I was really intimidated because I was like, oh no, like a new person. I'm not good with new people. Why would you do this to me? And like within seconds, I'm like, oh, this guy's so lovely.
Yeah, we
Um,
were like the three of us. I mean, we were just talking before we started recording here that three of us had a really good time. We vibed totally. And we on Michael's podcast where we live horror, we talked for like 5 hours straight
mm.
and we just couldn't shut up. And then even like afterwards, after we were done recording, my boyfriend who I live with was like, I almost came in to see if you were dead. Like you guys were in there for so long. I was like, yeah, we were having the best time.
That was a fun episode. For those who listen to the show who haven't gone over to that one yet, you've got to check it out. Like it's so much fun. Um, Michael's a listener favorite on the podcast. I'm sure you will become that as well, Kyle. But yeah, we had so much fun. I told my wife, I'm like, it'll only be 3 hours, and she's like, really? It's with Michael? I'm like, yeah, I think 3 hours would be enough. And like at one point, I think we all had to stop for a bathroom break, so we can go for so
Yeah,
so long. And I popped my head out. I'm like, you were right. I was wrong.
right.
I apologize.
Yeah.
um, but
No,
yeah,
I
and
know. I'm glad
even
that we can circle
sorry,
back.
go on.
I was saying I'm glad we can circle back and do this again. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I remember like I said it on the show. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get Kyle on my show if he's interested. And as soon as we were off, I'm like, no, I'm serious. I want to get you on the show. And then January was just like so hectic, like just trying to get
Yeah.
things organized. And trying like I had to like set up my new international system because I've only really worked with Michael and the guys from Midnight Terrors before, so it's been pretty manageable. But now I'm trying to expand the show and build and get more, kind of international guests on. So I had to like set up this whole system where I could do bookings and like block out calendars and like email templates, all the admin stuff that no one cares about, but like makes my life easier. So I had to get all
Yeah.
that organized first. But it seems to be working because people are booking in and coming on the show, which is great.
Yeah. It all worked out great. Here we are.
And you said yes, even though I forgot your name on the last show as well. I remember we were talking. I was like, I agree with you, Michael, and I agree with you as well.
You,
And I'm looking, I'm
friend.
trying to find your name, and it's not coming up on Zoom. And I was like, Kyle. I was like, oh no.
I mean, to be fair, like you said, like we literally met for the first time, on camera here on Zoom, just recording. So it's not like we had an extensive friendship before that, which maybe would have made that worse, but it's
Yeah.
okay.
But I like I'm a big believer in taking ownership of your mistakes. So I literally, as soon as I finished my point, I'm like, and Kyle, I'm really sorry I forgot your name there for a second. Um,
It's okay. You can say, hey, you, hey, asshole, like whatever you want to say. Like I'll answer. I'm here.
that's always been my outlook as well. So I'm like, my name is the least important thing about me. If you get it, it's fine.
Right. As long as they're having a good time, who cares?
Yeah, like the person, not the label attached. It's all good.
Exactly. There you go.
Um, Alrighty, so we get to know each other a little bit on Michael's podcast, but I don't know too much about like your history with film. So one thing I always like to do with my first time guests is ask about where it began. Now I think you're a bit younger than me. In fact, I'm sure you're younger than me. So where does it begin for you? Are you a video store kid? Do you discover movies when you're older? Is it more streaming that kind of brought you to the genre or to the art form? Where does it all start?
Yeah, well, I'll just tell you, I'm 28. I was born in 1995, so I was a video store kid the last kind of, 10 years, or I guess I don't know when exactly Blockbuster went down, maybe closer to like 2011-ish, but
Yeah.
I definitely was a Blockbuster kid. It was like still to this day, some of my favorite memories, like when I think about my childhood, was like going with my sister on Friday nights to the video store and picking out for me, mostly what my TikTok is about is horror movies. I love horror movies. So those are always the ones that I like just worked my way like front to back through
Nice.
the horror movie section, but I really do other than horror, I have a I watch a lot of things, but that was really one of my favorite memories is going to Blockbusters, so I definitely love movies from a really young age, like, I'll kinda get into this when we kinda go into my top 5 favorite movies, but one of the first movies that I really, like, totally impacted me, which with, like, a lot of little gay kids was The Wizard of Oz, so that was kind of like my first.
Not just gay kids. I love The Wizard of Oz.
There you go. I
I'm
know,
right
maybe I
now
shouldn't
like
pigeonhole that so much, maybe I should stop being so stereotypical,
no,
um
no, it's okay. It's interesting, like that you bring that up because that's a movie I really want to show my daughter. We are just talking before about how I'm getting my daughter into movies and stuff like that, but I don't think she's quite ready for it because Wizard of Oz is terrifying.
There was definitely some scary moments in it for sure, and it's so funny because yeah, I loved that. My family to this day like jokes. They were like, it was on TV all the time at my house. Like I just watched it on loop almost every day as a kid for
Yeah,
really the first like 10 years of my life. Like, and I still watch it often, but especially those first 10 years, like I just couldn't get enough. I had the dolls. I used to reenact it in the backyard. I played all the characters. Like I had
nice.
the albums. Like it just was my favorite thing. And so I had a friend I remember growing up that her mom would not let her watch it. And she always heard me talk about it. And I was so like, I had never, I mean, like, how old was I? I was probably like 6, 7-ish, and her mom wouldn't let her watch it because it was too scary, and I'm being so annoyed, like, I loved them both, but I was like, "No." I was like, "You have to be able to watch it." I was like so I remember one time she came over to my house for, like, a play date, and I was like, "Today's the day. You're not gonna tell your mom, and I'm putting this movie on for you." And she with my friend, she was down. She's like, "I really wanna watch it. I'm not gonna be scared." So we put it on, and she was totally enjoying it, but we did not time out the movie well enough, so her mom, like, knocked on my door, like, to come pick her up, at, like, 5 o'clock or whatever, like,
Mm.
towards the end when it starts getting really scary with the
Yeah.
witch, and then my mom's friend walked in and she was like, you're in big trouble." And I was like, "Oops, sorry, Maddie." Like, at least you got to see most of it. But that was really my first kind of like movie that really deeply impacted me. And ever since then, I've loved movies. Like, I will go on record here and say, like, I don't know if I fully classify myself as like a film bro or a film snob because there's a lot of probably really high end, highbrow movies, a lot of Oscar movies that I probably have not seen. But I think
Oh,
the
you
thing about
don't need to worry about it. That's not what this show is. Like the operative word in the title is was. I was a snob, but like no, this is just a celebration of movies in general. Like I have a very, very basic philosophy on this show, and that's that if every movie is someone's favorite movie, then there are no bad movies. So you don't need to be an Oscar snob to be like yeah, like I hate all that elitist stuff. Like I know some people really dig on it and like they like to separate it. It's like I think that if you love, like Cameron Diaz's Charlie's Angels from the early 2000s, and that's just as valid as liking something like Anatomy of a Fall. Like, if
right.
that means something to you, or The Wizard of Oz, which kind of walks in a few circles because it is like very kind of high prestige, but also it is
Yeah.
very much a genre film, which is now
Yeah.
kind of like people turn their noses up at it now, but a genre film now. But like Wizard of Oz is like the OG. Like, what was
Yeah.
genre before that? So, no, you don't have
Totally.
to apologize or make excuses. Like everything is welcome here.
I think the thing about me, I'm like this way with a lot of my interests, to be totally honest, like even when it comes to music, but like if I find a movie I liked as a kid or even in my teen years, like I'm very, very loyal to those movies. So like I will watch those movies all the time. So I repeated a lot of movies growing up. So a lot of the movies that are on my list are movies that I watched all the time or on road
Yeah.
trips or on weekends or I showed my friends. Like a lot of my favorite films are ones from like earlier years in my life when I'm just like super attached to them. And even now, like I put them on and they just have a special feeling. So I'm very loyal to the really random movies that I've seen, for the first half of my life.
Those are the best kind of lists to me. Like mine, like I think when I did my top five early on, I think like four of them were from the oldest one was probably from 2007, I think, and
Mhm.
everything. And then there's one from 2019, and that was a late entry. Like that kind of um, entered the top five very late. I was just like, this film's so good, and I've watched it so many times now. Like it's got to be in there. But I'm the same. Like I'm very loyal, and I think like the people who come on this show, all my guests and all my friends and stuff, I talk about it. Like the thing we have in common is we rewatch. It's like you don't watch a
Yeah.
movie once and then done. Especially when you're a kid, because when you're a kid, all you got is time. So you go to the video store, you get your 7 weeklies or whatever it is, and you watch
Yeah.
them over and over and over and over again until like the tape breaks, and then your
Well,
parents
I
end up having
think
to pay to replace the
especially
video. So
100%. I think especially with horror movies too, just because I well, at least for me growing up, I think now I have maybe more friends that appreciate the genre, but I liked horror from a really young age. Like I remember I mean, it started kind of small, like the intro level stuff. Like I was really into Goosebumps and Scooby Doo as a kid,
I
and
just
then it
interviewed someone 2 hours ago, and she mentioned that the first thing to go into horror was Goosebumps as well. And
yeah,
Goosebumps was big for me as well. I think it's a big gateway for a lot of people like in our generation.
100%. Yeah, and like I was always fascinated by the more scary elements of, like Snow White. Like some of those scenes are terrifying in Snow White, or even like The Wizard of Oz. Like I was always really into the kind of dark and twisted and scary stuff. And then it kind of grew from there. But again, I think I liked horror maybe earlier than some of my cohorts at the time. So a lot of
Mm.
the horror movies I've seen so many times because like growing up, I was always the one being like, no, no, we're gonna watch this tonight. No, no, we're gonna watch The Strangers. Nope, no, okay, we're gonna watch the
Oh,
original
I
It.
love The
We're gonna do
Strangers.
this. This is called the Amityville Horror. Like I was like 12 years old, like, kind of curating my friend's horror movie experience because my friends would be down. They'd be like, no, we're down to get scared, but they wouldn't really know where to start. And just because I
Yeah.
was such a nerd and I was from a young age, and I think a lot of horror fans are like that. And I think we like being the little curator for our friends that don't know the genre as well because we're like, no, you can skip that one or watch this one first. And that was kind of what I did. So I watched a lot of those horror movies just over and over again, showing different friend groups, showing my sister, showing my brother. So those are the ones that like those DVDs burned out so quick. I
It's
had to
funny you
buy
mention
full
it's so
editions.
oh sorry. It's so funny you mentioned that because I was actually the last one in my group of friends to watch horror, but I'm the only horror fan. Like in that
Mhm.
group, I don't think any of them really watch horror that much anymore. But it just took me a while to kind of cross that bridge. Once I was able to cross that bridge, I became like infatuated with the genre, and now I do the same thing. Like my favorite thing to do, whether it's horror or anything in general, is curate recommendations for people. Like during the pandemic, like the project I took on was friends would be like, "Hey, what should I watch?" I was like, "Give me a day," and I just like write like a list of like 80 great films they could watch and stuff
Yeah.
like that, like based
Yeah.
on what they are into. So like if someone wants to watch horror, I'm like, "That's cool. I can give you a list. How extreme are we going? What don't you like? Do you like ghosts? Do you like gore? Do you like really extreme? Like, and then I can like, can you deal with subtitles? Which always bums me out when people say they can't deal with subtitles. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you learned to read like 20 years ago. Like, it's fine. You can.
Right. Yeah. Well, hey, I used to be kind of one of those people. I wouldn't. Let me say this: I wouldn't not watch a movie because it had subtitles, but I definitely was like sometimes turned off a little bit by it. I was just like, I don't know, it did feel like extra work, and now I've totally broken through to the other side. The past, I would say, like 5 years, it doesn't bother me as much, at all, and I can still, like, I realize I trusted myself that I can multitask. I'm smarter than I think I am, I can watch and read at the same time, and
It's
then
so.
now
I'm sorry.
it's gotten to the point where now I just watch all my movies with subtitles, even
Me too.
though they're in English, 'cause I mean, these damn phones that we have, so I don't know if I can swear on this
Oh, say
podcast.
whatever you like. Look, I
Okay,
don't
well,
because
this
I don't
fucking
because my. I,
phone yeah. This fucking cell phone I have has definitely, unfortunately, ruined my attention span, so I notice that if I put subtitles on, even for an English movie, I will pay attention more because it gives me another thing to focus on instead of grabbing my phone to check to see if I have text.
That's one
I
of the
hate
reasons
that
why I
I am
turned
that
the
way.
garage into a cinema. The last time we met, I was telling you like I was in the process of converting my garage into home theater. The whole reason behind that was if I sit in the lounge room, I'll have my phone next to me and I'll look at my phone. But if I sit in the home theater with the lights off and the projector on, I'm replicating the cinematic experience, and I'll respect
Yeah.
that. I'm like,
100%. Like, if I go see and I'm also, like, very religious, like, if I go in terms of my movie-going experience, like, if I am with friends, I won't be on my phone.
yeah,
If I'm watching by myself, I'll be on my phone, or if I go to a theater, my phone gets turned off. So, like, it's kinda
yeah,
situational, but I'm worse if I'm just by myself. Like, if I'm watching it with somebody, it's more of, like, a shared experience, so I won't be on my phone.
mm,
I'll get mad if someone is on their phone. I'm like, "Stop, we're doing this together. Like, we're in
yeah.
this together." But yeah, I the subtitles do help me, I'm not gonna lie.
No, 100%. I started watching movies with subtitles when I was probably 14 or 15 because I used to stay up really late. watching movies, so I had to turn the volume all the way down. So I'd crank the subtitles, and that's how I could get away with watching stuff.
Oh, there you
Uh,
go. That's good.
yeah, because like I remember one time, I remember like it's so funny. Like I got in trouble. It was like a school night. I would have been like in 11th grade or whatever. And it was my dad was up watching TV. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to bed, and I wasn't tired, but I just didn't want to watch what my dad was watching anymore. Like nothing against my dad, but he was watching like I don't know, I just didn't care. Like free to air television in Australia is pretty bad. So
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to go and watch something else, and then like I guess he heard me with my TV up because I thought you were going to bed. I'm like, oh yeah, but I'm just going to watch this before bed, and it'd been like an hour and a half. I didn't realize he's like, if you're going to bed, like you got to go. And like he ripped me apart. To be honest, like he got really angry. And so after that, I was like, subtitles. Like we'll just drop that volume down, and then I can get away with it. Uh,
Yeah.
Now
No,
you mentioned before your sister was who you shared all your kind of video experience with the video store. Older sister or younger sister?
well, oh goodness, my family is very complicated. Even my closest friends have a hard time keeping track. But the sister I was actually referencing, she's actually my stepsister. We're pretty much the exact same age, so we were kind of raised as twins. I'm like 5 months older than her,
Okay.
but essentially I'm one of seven.
Oh wow.
So I have two quote unquote real siblings that we share blood, and then my parents divorced and my dad got remarried. Well, my parents divorced when I was around 7. My dad got remarried when I was around 8, or he got together with my now stepmom when I was around 8, I should say, and she has 4 kids. So, especially me and my sister, we were 8 years old when our families kind of came together. So
Hmm.
we were kind of the babies, and so we kind of, I always call it like the Brady Bunch deal. So I I have 2 real siblings, but at the end of the day, I kind of just say like I don't really always specify just because I'm like, we spent our whole life, most of my life has been with all you idiots. So I just but yeah, my sister Lauren, she is the one that's we're pretty much the same age. So we were best friends growing up, and my dad would take us, and she really got into horror movies too. So she's someone that
Nice.
we've always kind of shared that passion. She'll text me sometimes because I don't think she necessarily keeps up with the genre as much as I do, but every couple weeks I'll get a text. She'll be like, "Okay, me and Grayson, her husband, me and Grayson want to watch a horror movie. Can you throw like 5 names my way?" Or she'll text me like, "What's that one movie we watched where they're in a hotel and they're being stalked?" And I'm like, "No vacancy." Yes, starring. Yeah, I'm like, so we still talk about it, and we still, and anytime we go on family vacations or going for our holidays, we like look at each other and I'm like, it's time. Let's reunite and let's do a horror movie night. So we were
Nice.
we were really bonded over that for sure.
No, I love that, man. Like that's really cool because that you had someone like that. And I guess the reason I asked age is like, oh, well, maybe like if it was an older sister, she was the one driving to the video store and stuff like that. But like that's a really unique circumstance. My parents split when I was 12, almost 13, and there was no remarrying and no extra siblings or anything like that. But like, yeah, like that's kind of when movies really took over my life. Like I was always into movies, always loved movies, but when my parents split, that's when like that was my coping mechanism. That was my, like, oh,
Yeah,
I'll just,
totally.
that sort of thing. But no one wanted to follow me down the path of horror. Like my brother and sister. My sister watched a little bit of horror, but not too much. My brother didn't really. The only time my brother showed any interest was when I rented The Human Centipede. He's like, I heard that's really weird. I'm like, I'll find out. And like halfway through, he like knocked on my door. He goes, "Is it weird?" I'm like, I go, it's, you know what? It's not as weird. Look, the title gives a lot away. So like at this stage, it's kind of living up to expectations, but I'll keep you updated. And then the film became what the film became.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no one in my family really digs on horror. Like my parents don't dig on horror. My dad recommended a couple of horror films for me. Like he was the one who introduced me to Alien and The Shining. We
Okay.
didn't watch we didn't watch it together, but he was like, "Oh, you should check these out." And he told me about his experience seeing The Exorcist and stuff like that. I was like, "Oh, well, of course I have to go check that out."
Of
Um,
course. Yeah.
and The
Yeah,
Fly,
it's
I think.
funny.
So yeah, but he won't watch horror stuff with me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for me and my sister, we mean we we joke like I, I don't know how old we were, maybe like when we were around 11 or 12. I remember my dad got a new car, and I think now I don't even know. I feel like it was kind of a fad. I don't know if the cars even still have this anymore, but it was like at the time it was like an Acadia, GMC Acadia, and it had one of those DVD players that was like, built into the car that
Yep.
dropped down. It was like peak technology. My sister and I could not believe that we got this. And we took a lot of like weekend trips growing up. Like we would go, I grew up in Northern California. So we would go up to the mountains to Lake Tahoe, or we would go to the like Lake Pinecrest, and we'd do all this stuff that was like all kind of 3 hours away. So my sister and I would throw on a movie if we went on a road trip, and we were like truly watching like Saw X, or not Saw X, Saw
You were
6 or
living in
Saw.
the future. You were
Right?
like,
We were watching one of the many sequels in the back of
yeah.
the car, like a bright sunshiny day, and my sister and I with our headphones on are just watching the most disturbing shit. Or like, I remember one time we went camping, and well, we were like staying at a cabin in the woods, no pun intended, but we were staying at like a cabin in the woods, and for some reason, my sister and I thought we're like, no, we want to camp in the backyard of this cabin, like we want the true camping experience. So we
That was
brought like a
brave of
portable.
you.
Right, I know. And we brought, like, a portable DVD player that we had charged, and we watched the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like, in a tent, in the
Nice.
backyard, in the woods, and I don't know, like, we were just kinda ballsy like that, but in my family, like, not that none of my other siblings or my parents didn't have movies that they liked, but I would say, like, the culture of our family, like, it wasn't like, my parents didn't have, like, diehard movies that they wanted me to watch. Like, I felt like I was kind of the one, like, pushing, like, to go see movies, pushing to bring movies home. Like, I didn't have a lot of influence in terms of, "Oh, watch this, Kyle," or even my older siblings weren't really like, "Oh, you gotta watch this one." Like, I felt like, looking back on it now, like, I kind of was finding a lot of the stuff on my own and then recommending it to even though I was the youngest one, recommending it to my older siblings, like,
Mm.
weren't a super huge, like, film family. Like, we watched movies together, but I kind of this kind of came apart, kind of came by on my own, I guess. And then of course with my stepsister Lauren, I would say she was a close second to me, and we kind of watched things together. But I didn't have a big influence in terms of like my dad or my mom. Like they had movies here and there. They like I would hear from them, but we weren't. They weren't super into anything. Like they weren't very passionate about movies one way or the other. You know?
Yeah, yeah. That was my next question was going to be. There's a question I like to ask is there anyone who kind of gifted you a film, like in your life? Is there a particular person who recommended a particular film? Where like, oh my goodness, this was that gift. So, for example, like my dad, when I was probably 5 or 6, showed me the Blues Brothers for the first time, and like it was such an impactful moment for me because I'd never seen anything like that, and I think a lot of people who aren't into film or art in general, like music, stuff like that, they don't realize that like it's such like a great gift for someone to be like, "Hey, I dig this. I think you're gonna dig this. You should check it out. It's gonna change your life." And then like you watch that movie and you're like, "Oh my god!" Suddenly, like my world has been opened up. And like I've been very lucky a few times. Like my dad showed me the Blues Brothers. I was like, "Oh my goodness!" Like I've never seen anything like this before. When I was in high school, a friend of mine showed me Clerks for the first time, and that really blew my mind. So like, do you
Yeah.
have any of those moments where someone's kind of gifted you this kind of film experience or this film that's impacted you in a way like that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I love that you say gifted it to because that's kind of how I feel. Like, I feel like when and this is, I think a lot of movie lovers feel this way, but like when I show my friends or my boyfriend or my family, anybody that movie that means a lot to me, I'm like, I feel like I'm sharing a piece of my life and my
Yeah,
story with them. Even if it's like the craziest batshit movie that like, I'm not saying like the movie means anything about my life, but just my connection to it is
yeah.
special. So I always like I my friends always give me shit because 'cause I'm like, take it personally. I'm like, "If you don't like this movie, we're no longer friends." Or I'm like, "If you're texting that, that's disgraceful and rude." And I'm like, you know what I mean? So I think a lot of movie fans feel that way because 'cause I'm like, I love that you kinda said that it's a gift because that's the way I love that when people show me something that they care about, and I feel like I'm bestowing great knowledge upon people
Yeah, yeah,
when
exactly.
I show them the worst movie they've ever seen in their life that I promised them was good.
That
But
was
let's
I
see.
had that experience with my wife. During the lockdown, I showed her Josie and the Pussycats, which I
Oh, love
maintain
that.
is a classic. I think it's underrated.
Oh
I
my
think
god.
it's the American version of the Spice Girls movie. Like it's brilliant, and my wife
Yes.
hated it. And I was
What? No. It's funny you bring that movie up because, I mean, I could be here all day talking about that movie, but that was a movie I watched a lot growing up with my sister, and we, like, loved that movie. We had
mm.
the album, and then I watched it as an adult,
Album's
and I was like,
great. It's got great songs on it.
"Yes."
Like yeah,
And then to watch it as an adult, and there were so many things that I was a kid, I was not picking up on, like, all the advertisements and everything, and, like,
yeah,
as an adult, I, like, loved it even more. I was like, "Wait, this movie's way smarter." I just thought it was fun as a kid, and now I
yeah.
watched it as like, "Wait, this is actually also very smart and funny."
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway, I interrupted you were answering the first question, and then I went on a
oh,
tangent. I
yeah,
do
sorry,
apologize.
no, what was I oh,
The gift
people
of
bestow
film.
upon um, you know what? Yes, there was a couple instances, and for some reason, the first thing that came to mind was the babysitters I had. Maybe it was
Yeah,
just because, they were all kind of teenagers, so maybe they were kinda showing me, like, the big pop culture moments and stuff like that. But there's specifically, like Well, I can think of one, and this is gonna tie into my list a little bit later, so I don't know. Should I maybe I'll save the official titles for later down the line, but
Sure, that's fine.
my babysitter showed me a couple movies, some comedies, some cult classic like comedies that I was like that totally I think shaped what I now find funny.
Yeah.
And then but I will say for horror movies, like I have a very distinct memory. Again, another I had a I guess I'm making it sound like my parents were never at home, but I had a plethora of babysitters over the years growing up with working parents, and one of them was actually also named Kyle. And we went over to his house one time, and he showed me we watched it's a double feature. We watched The Ring and we watched Resident Evil, the first one.
Oh,
And
nice.
that was a really it wasn't this I don't think they were the first horror movies I had seen. I think I had maybe watched one or two before that, but for some reason that day is like I was maybe 8 and it was such a distinct day in my mind. And those are two of my still favorite horror movies. And I think so I always remember my babysitter Kyle showing me those two at his house. It was during the day. And his mom worked with my dad. We were kind of like family friends at the time. And so me and him and his mom, he had to have been, I was like 8, he was probably like 22 or 20.
Yeah.
And we watched those movies together. And that is such a distinct memory being at his apartment or his townhouse and watching those. And it definitely was like, like I said, I watched a couple horror movies before, like adult horror movies, and then I saw those 2 and I was like, "Oh, I really, really like this." And it started that was a huge ball that started to get like
Mm,
that's when the avalanche kinda started of like, "No, I need to go and watch more movies just like this at Blockbuster." So that's definitely one of them. But yeah, a lot of my movies I watched growing up, now that I think about it, were like babysitters showing me things that
yeah.
they really liked, which is funny, I hadn't really thought of that until you brought that up. I was like, a lot of the movies on my list later on, I'm like, "Oh, well, my babysitter showed me that. Oh, my babysitter showed me that one
Mm.
too." So, yeah, I loved babysitters growing up because I got lucky. They were all, like, mostly, like, young college kids, so they had a lot of energy and were super fun. Like, they weren't like, grandma next door that made you knit with her. Like, I had pretty cool ones, and, they definitely influenced, I think, a lot of my interests in movies that I watched.
Yeah, nice. I didn't have a lot of
Yeah.
babysitters growing up. When I was younger, I did a couple of times. Like the neighbor across the road, she would come over
Yeah.
and look after us, which was great because she was very cute and like 3 years older than me. So I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen too often. And but as I got older, like after my parents split, like my mum kind of fell into the stereotype of like, well, I'll just let you watch whatever you want.
Oh
I was
my
like,
god,
I was like, awesome, this is great. Like, but then she would insist on watching stuff with me, and I was like, oh, like, well, I'm gonna watch it late. And she's like, okay, we'll just come and get me when like the certain scene comes up. Like, I think the first time that happened was Gangs of New York, and she wanted me to come and get her when like the brothel scene came on, and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna go upstairs and be like, Mom, can you come and watch the brothel scene with me? It's
Right,
like that's
yeah.
not gonna happen. So,
Well,
but
it's funny.
she bought my first R-rated film as well, which is very
What was
cool.
it?
It would have been, it was a Robert Rodriguez double pack. It had El Mariachi, triple pack, sorry, El Mariachi, Desperado, and Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Nice.
And that's because I was studying film at the time, and we had to do like a report on a director, and everyone wanted to do Quentin Tarantino. Everyone wanted to do
Mhm.
Quentin Tarantino. And so I didn't even bother. I was like, there's 7 other kids who want it. I'm not going to get it. And I was like, but Quentin Tarantino worked on Sin City and I love Sin City. I like that director. I'll check out his films. And so I dragged my mum to the DVD store. I said, I need all the Robert Rodriguez films I can get. Like, and she did it for me, which was cool. She's a cool mum. So
That's awesome.
still is a cool mum. Like, she's still with us. So,
Yeah.
and she listens to the show. She'll be like, you made it sound like I was dead. And I was and you said I was a cool mum. I'll be
Well, it's
like,
funny because I don't know if you experience this, and maybe it's a child divorce thing, but my parent, what I could get away with watching at both my houses was different. So,
yes.
like, I would say I benefited from the youngest child thing, where I would say to a huge extent, my parents had stopped caring a lot about, you know what I mean? Like, they had already had my brother and my sister, and they were like, I think they were a lot stricter with my brother gives me shit because he's like, "Kyle, you could watch anything you wanted growing up." My parents and the parents barely let me watch The Simpsons when I was like 16. And I was like, so I think there was definitely a youngest kid thing where my parents really kind of let me watch whatever I wanted to. And I think
Mm,
because I was so young when they went through divorce, maybe they felt guilty and just let me get away with a lot more just because they were like, "Oh, sorry for turning your life upside down." But at my dad's house, I always noticed my dad was like a little bit more he was easier on, like, the gore and the kind of violent stuff, like, he didn't care so much about that, but he got really uncomfortable with, like, sex stuff or any sort of nudity. Like, we always knew, like, if a movie had any sort of sex scenes, dad would not let us watch it. And then oppositely at my mom's house, my mom was like, did not like the gory stuff, but if, like, there was nudity or, like, a sex scene, she kinda let that fly a little bit more. So it's funny, like, if I was going to the video store, I could be like, I think that's more of a dad's house kind of movie. I think mom will let me get away with that one." I would really kind of play with the divorce card a little bit to get to watch what I wanted.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely felt that as well. I didn't have the first part. I'm the oldest, so I was more yeah, my siblings got away with more than I did. I was definitely the oldest one there. But in terms of stuff, yeah, it was a bit of the reverse. My dad would always show me like the bawdy like 70s and 80s comedies, so nudity wasn't a problem. In fact, I think it was probably a selling point. I'm like, Dad, come on, boobs. We both like boobs, don't we? So let's put the boob movie on.
Yeah,
He listens to the show as well. He's like, I'm not just about boobs.
yeah,
He did come on the sex episode though. So,
that's
um,
funny.
and my mum, sh she was pretty good, like, because what would happen ultimately, once I started working at the video store, because that's what I did from kind of age 15 until 18 was working in video stores.
Oh my
Once
god,
I
that's
started
awesome.
working yeah, it was great. As you can see, I've turned my life into a video store.
I
I've
know, it's perfect.
so, once I started working there, they kind of lost track of what I was watching. So if I brought stuff home for the family, I kind of slide my rentals like in my work bag or whatever, and it's like, and then I could just get away with whatever. So, especially the second video. So the first one they had rules. The second one there were no rules. I was taking like all the R-rated horror films I could. Like that's how I learned about Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and all that sort of stuff, and got away with seeing some really weird movies, which was cool. So.
That's awesome. You're like Randy from Scream.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. It was very cool. I remember when I graduated high school, I was talking to my buddy and I was like, "We're gonna open a video store, right?" And he's like, "Well, I want to do this game thing because my best friend, who's been on the podcast a bunch, um, owns and operates his own video game company. Like he created his own company
Oh,
from
very
scratch.
cool.
Yeah, very, very, very cool. But like, I was like, okay, well, in 5 years, if we haven't achieved our dreams, because I wanted to be a filmmaker and he wanted to make games. So if we haven't achieved our dreams in 5 years, we'll open up a video store. Video stores close like 2 years later.
Right.
So
Yeah, time to find a new dream.
yeah, I was like, maybe they'll pay me to talk about movies. They won't pay me, but I can do it. So
You can
um,
do it for fun. But yeah, it's funny because my parents too, they're both it's funny, both separately get so defensive when I bring this up, but I've made comments before in the past. I'm like, you guys let me watch whatever I want growing up. Like there was definitely some things I probably should not have been watching at like 8, 9, 10 years old. And they both are like, what? I never let you do that. I never let you. That must have been your other house. That must have been your other house.
yeah,
No, both you guys would, like, barely glance at the movies that I got at Blockbuster and just, like they're like, sure," and then you guys would go to bed, like, please, there was not a lot of monitoring, but I feel like they both carry guilt or something when I bring that up, or they don't wanna be outed as being I don't know, I was grateful for it, it made my life better, so I'm not complaining, I'm very happy with the way the lack of monitoring, let's say, I feel like it gave me more
yeah.
excitement.
No, I think it's good. I'm dealing with that at the moment. I was telling you before, like I took my daughter to the movies yesterday, and I've been showing her movies since she was born. Like we always like try and find something to watch, and it's a lot of Disney stuff for the most part. Like she's not really interested in people. She's more interested in the animated stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
like at some point, I would like to get her into horror because my wife doesn't like horror, and I'd like to have that bond with her. So right now, I'm trying to figure out like what are the stepping stones? Because I know you can. I know like most kids, people who are into horror watch horror way too young. So I'm just trying to figure out that age right now. I think like it's got to be between like 10 and 12. I think that's when she can start watching
Yeah,
some. And the good thing is I've watched so much, so I'm really good at curating a list now. So I'll be able to know what's too much for her. But um, but also she doesn't know what she's afraid of yet. So that's the other thing.
right.
Um, yeah, except for the fish
Oh.
monster and Luca. Um,
Maybe you could start her maybe even you could even show her, like, the old corny Goosebumps from, like, because I know they brought it back for Disney Plus, but maybe you could even start with, like, the old school, like, Haunted Mask episode or
yeah.
Welcome to
The haunted mask episode. What a great. That's
iconic.
yeah, my favorite book of the Goosebumps series, and yeah, great episode as well.
Yeah,
Was it
so
Mary
maybe
Beth? Is
some
that who
easy
it
stuff.
was?
Yeah, Mary Beth, yeah,
Yeah.
it's so fun. Man, watching those they were I don't think they still are, but for a while, the old Goosebumps were on Netflix, and I remember one day my friend Colin and I just sat down, it was around Halloween time, we watched, like, 10 episodes, and we were just busting out laughing because the everything about it, obviously, it's so cheesy, it's so fun. Also,
Mm.
what was the episode? There was an episode where they, like, Welcome to Monsterland, I think, where they, like, go to that theme park that
Yeah,
is,
yeah, yeah.
but watching it back with, like, adult eyes, I'm like, Okay, the budget was like $12 because it was like very clearly a park somewhere, probably in LA or maybe in Vancouver or something. And it was
Probably
like,
Vancouver. A lot of
I
those
was like,
shows got shot in
yeah,
Canada, didn't
probably in
they?
Canada. And it was like a barely like a cardboard sign with like paint that was like Monster Land. And like you could totally tell they just threw up some Spirit Store Halloween decorations in this park and called it. It was so funny to watch the budget work on this show, and which honestly makes it more fun now, like to watch those old ones that kind of laugh at how cheesy they are. So she could probably handle those in a couple years, you know?
Yeah, I'll show her like Night and Terror Tower and stuff like that.
Oh man, I had that's a good one. I forgot about that one.
I think that was the first one. Actually, I think I've got it. In fact, I'm looking at it right now because I just unpacked a box of VHSs the other day while I was tidying up the
I think
garage.
I had that on VHS too as a
I'm
kid.
looking at it right now. It's over there, Night and Terror Tower.
I
So
also really liked Welcome to Dead House, which I think was the first Goosebumps book, if I'm not mistaken.
it was. I never read it because everyone was saying it was the scariest one, and at that time I wasn't into. Like, I liked. I had a really complex relationship with horror where I loved monsters. I loved vampires and werewolves and Frankenstein's monster and all that sort of stuff as a kid. But I also got scared very easily. So I was like, I like looking at these things, but I just need to like build my. I remember when I went and saw. Did I see Lion King in cinema? I think I saw Lion King in cinema, and coming out of the theater, there was a poster in the lobby for Interview with the Vampire, and it's just like
Oh.
Tom Cruise's face. He's got like his hand up there. He's got like these blue eyes in the face, and it terrified me. It's just a poster, and it wasn't even like particularly like gruesome. It was just a picture of Tom Cruise, which is scary in other ways, but like
Yeah, it could
but
be scary in
wasn't
other
scary.
ways. Yeah.
And like that sat with me for weeks, and I was like, oh my god. And then like my favorite thing to do was kind of test my own bravery at the video store, where I kind of look at the end of the aisle and see the horror section. I'd start looking at the covers, and then like sneak away when I got too scared and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, so but yeah, maybe Goosebumps is a good one for her. I have to be careful. I got so much stuff in here like that is definitely not appropriate for her. Like, and she's found the spine for Terrifier, and
Mhm.
she hates it. She's like, oh my god, like it's a monster. I'm like, it is. Don't look at it. And my wife's like, you need to like cover that spine up. I'm like, he
Also,
is pretty
like the
good.
most gruesome graphic monster, like not just any monster.
Like I would say, like scariest looking horror villain of all time. I can't think of a horror villain that's more like unsettling to look at than Art the Clown. So,
It is he's terrifying. He is
mm,
very terrifying, and something similar happened to me. I was just a few days ago, I was at my sister my one of my older sisters, Kristen, and her husband, we all went to Palm Springs they were in Palm Springs for, like, a week, and I drove up, which is about 2 hours. I live in Los Angeles, it's about 2.5 hours from where I live, out in the desert, and so I went to go meet them for a night, and she has a son that's 6, and he knows I really like horror movies, and he's not very brave, so he'll always kinda, like, ask me about horror movies a little bit because I think it's, like, one of those things where he, like, wants to know, but doesn't wanna know,
mm.
and he kinda likes to, make fun of me because he'll always be like, "So, did you watch horror movies last night in bed? Is that all you ever do?" And I'm like, "Kind of, yeah," but we, I drove up there, I spent the night, and then the next morning, when we were having breakfast, he goes, "Let me guess, you probably watched a horror movie in bed last night." I was like, "I did." Like, I was like, "I watched." Well, I didn't offer the name up. He goes, "What movie did you watch?" And I, like, don't know why, it just flew out of my mouth, and I should have lied and just said, made up anything. He would never know a difference.
Mm.
But I was like, "Oh, X." And he was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Oh," I was like, maybe I shouldn't have told him that." And then, like, I saw him kinda, like, reach down for his iPad because I think he wanted to, like, go on YouTube or something because that's he likes watching YouTube videos or whatever, and I was
Mm.
like, "Please," I, like, was, like, thinking to myself, I'm like, "Please don't start Googling clips of the movie X."
I love X. I think X, like that was a film that really turned me on to Ty West. I'd seen some of his stuff in the past, and I hadn't been a huge fan. I can't remember what it was. I know I like the Sacrament, but I don't know. It's like his segment in VHS. I thought was very long and kind of underwhelming, and I didn't like his segment in ABCs of Death either. But I did my Sacrament, and X turned me around. Like, oh my god, this is incredible. I was shocked how far they pushed it, like in terms of
Mhm.
the sexuality in that movie.
Yeah, it's
Which
I mean, it's a movie about making porn, and it almost is a porn at sometimes.
But I had to applaud it. So I was like, you know what, like they really went for it. Like a lot of films, will try to pay homage to like a genre or to a time period, and they'll always kind of like back acts like, oh, we can't do that. And Ty West, like for full credit, I'm like, he made a really entertaining horror flick, and like was the gore was on point. Like that bit with the fingers in the door, I'm like, oh my god, like well
Yeah.
done. And
Yeah.
yeah, really lent into it. So I was really impressed by that.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I really liked X. I liked Pearl a lot. And I'm excited for Maxine. I think we just got a release date. I think it's sometime this summer, but I can't remember it off the top of my
I
head.
thought I thought they said July. I think.
July. I was like, yeah, I think it was that's what I was thinking, but
Mm.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he brings.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy, and I think also he's grown up a lot. I think like in like the 2010s, he was really leaning into the indie filmmaker thing to like a annoying level where he was like a little bit pretentious about it. But he seems to have
Yeah.
chilled out a little bit as well. Like, I mean, look, and like fair play. Like he made some pretty great films and some pretty well revered films, and like he was involved in Your Next, which a lot of people really liked. So
Yeah.
I can see why you would get a bit of an ego about that sort of thing. But no, X and Pearl are fantastic. I was watching Pearl. I had to order it from the States because it didn't get released in Australia until like
Oh, yeah, I think you were telling me that on the last time we spoke. That's
yeah,
crazy.
I think like to like 10 months. I import like 90% of my films now. I almost don't spend money on Australian films at all unless if I go thrifting, like I'll go thrifting and I'll find stuff that's no longer in print. But otherwise, I almost don't buy anything from Australia anymore because like all the good stuff isn't here. Um,
Yeah.
but I remember watching Pearl, and my wife came in, and it was just like the scarecrow scene was starting, and I was like, like I'm
You're
not
like, it's
embarrassed.
nothing.
I'm not embarrassed by this. Like she knows I watches weird stuff, but like it's a hard scene to explain out of context. So I was just like pause, like before it got too much, because I knew the scarecrow scene was meant to be pretty
Right,
crazy.
and you know, you wanna say it's not what it looks like, but it actually is what it looks
It's
like. Yeah,
exactly
you're
what
like,
it looks
yeah,
like.
it's like, no, it's yeah, that she's fucking that scarecrow. Yep.
Yeah, I was talking to Michael, Michael from Wheel of Horror about it because I really dug the guy who played the projectionist. I didn't know who he was at the time. I'm like, hey, I was like, do you know who like this sexy projectionist is? Like, he's really great in this film. And he goes, you haven't seen him much. This guy's gonna be Superman now. Like, he's gone
Yeah.
from Pearl to Superman. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, he is really good. You know, he was in, I don't know if it was the first time I saw him, but the thing that I always think of is there was a Ryan Murphy show on Netflix called Hollywood.
Okay.
Um, he plays like a wannabe up and coming actor in it, and he's really good in it. And I mean, first of all, it's no stretch to see him as Superman because he looks like a carbon copy of Henry Cavill. So it's
Yeah.
it's just like he's gonna be pretty good, I bet. But yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, I almost forgot he was in Pearl.
Yeah. He's just as the projectionist who like becomes like a point of her fantasy and stuff, which is a
Yeah,
step up from Scarecrow. So
okay, there you go. At
Uh,
least it's
Nice one. We rambled on, which is great. I knew we would have a big chat, but we should have a look at your list.
okay. Let's do it.
But I love all of that, man. That sounds awesome. Like I'm digging that. Like it all makes sense to me. I'm glad to hear a video store kid as well. Like that's
Yeah, totally.
that always makes me happy when people are video store kids. Um,
Yeah.
so I gave you the impossible task of choosing your 5 favorite films of all time. Everyone who I set this task to, they're like, does it have to be 5? I'm like, yeah, but like you can bring honorable mentions. Like it's fine. Like it is mean. Um, so we'll go through them 5 to 1, unless they're not in any particular order, in which case just choose the order you like. If I've seen it, awesome. I'll be able to engage and ask, like talk about it. If not, I'll just ask you questions and stuff like that. But
Okay,
should have a
cool.
bit of fun. So what's number 5 on your list, Carl?
Okay. Yeah, this is I'm sure everyone who tells you this is like, this is such a Sophie's choice for horror. I mean, for not horror movie, but just film lovers in general. I mean, I think for anybody choosing 5 is so hard, but also these are going to be very chaotic. They're like all across the board, and some of them are so
Yes.
niche and so random. So you're going to be like, people listening to be like, what is this dude watching? Because they're so stupid.
I dropped a
Um,
Josie and the Pussycats reference very early on, so
well,
you
it's
know I'm
a
here for
lot of my
chaos.
movies are in that same vein. They're in that same time period with the same kind of humor that a lot of my movies are like that. So, okay, the first one, by the way, these are in no particular order.
Cool.
That's a whole other task trying to put them in order. So it's just my general top five. But I mean, I'll just start since we already talked about it, but I put The Wizard of Oz. It's the first movie I really do think of when someone asks me what my favorite movie is, because even now to this day, just because it really is the first thing that I saw that I can remember being like, "Oh, this is gonna change my life. Like, this is
Mm.
amazing what this can do." And I mean, it's impacted so much of my life, just my creativity or my own creativity, my own inspiration. It was like I said, I used to act out the movie in the backyard. Like, it gave me hours of play pretend. Um, I loved Judy Garland as a kid. You know, she's kind of I don't know, in many she's in many well, I guess she kind of is. I couldn't even think of one before her. She is like kind of the OG gay icon and gay rights
Yeah.
advocate.
And then,
Um,
her daughter did the same thing. She went
and
on
then
to
her
give
daughter
us.
followed in her footsteps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. So I have so much respect for Judy, and I have a big love for her. And um, The Wizard of Oz is really I just by it also inspired me because I went to school, college for theater. I'm not and
yep.
I acted for a little while, and I'm no longer really an actor, but I work in TV. So it really was a catalyst for me from a very young age being like, I want to work in LA and I want to work in making things that people can enjoy and people can watch. And I definitely let me say this, I do not work on TV that is anything equivalent to The Wizard of Oz, but if I could be a part of something that makes someone feel a fraction of what I felt watching that movie growing up, it's something that I've always known I wanted to do. So that movie is just like it's like baseline for me, and it really never gets old. Like, I watch it now and
No.
I'm like, "He is perfect." Like, I think, like, it's a how do I say this? Like, it's like a testament to practical effects, to the artistry of those gorgeous painted set pieces that they had, to the backdrops,
Yeah. Yeah.
to the costuming, like, everything about it has held up so well. I'm like, it's the most gorgeous film I've ever seen. Like, it's just perfect in my eyes.
Oh, it's visually stunning, and it's interesting you mentioned the painted backdrops because that was a big staple of film back, 100 years ago. Like that's what they were doing, painting these sets, and then it kind of went away at a certain point because they wanted to kind of swap it out for on location. But even last year with Poor Things, like you can see the influence of it, Wizard of Oz on Poor Things, like down to the way she dresses, down to like all the painted background sets. Like there's a lot of that influence there. So that film is still relevant today. And you're the first person to actually bring Wizard of Oz on a list. I was just thinking
Oh,
about
really?
it. This is episode 89, I want to say. So in almost 90 episodes, you're the first person to bring up Wizard of Oz. So
Yeah. I
it's
mean, it's
well
so funny.
overdue.
I know, I know I don't mean to pigeonhole the movie. I know it's a ton of people's, a lot of people's kind of first love of movies. I know that a lot of people do that, but especially for like little gay kids, like ask like any gay man that's like of any age, and they're like, "Oh, The Wizard of Oz was my first like quote unquote gay awakening." Like I wanted to be Dorothy so bad. I wanted those shoes. I wanted that hair. Everything about it was so fantastical and magical. And yeah, I'm super emotionally attached to that movie. Like every time I watch it, like when that overture starts, like it brings me right back to being a kid to watching it on my couch. And like the soundtrack, it's just special to me. And I actually well, I've seen so there's a museum in Seattle, Washington, called Mopop. It's a museum of pop culture.
Hmm.
And they had, when I was there, like a whole like Wizard of Oz section on display. So I got to see Dorothy, one of because they had a couple of those gingham dresses made for Judy Garland, but they had one of them there. And they had what else? They had the witch's hat, they had the Cowardly Lion's costume, which was pretty amazing, I
Mm.
believe. So they had a couple pieces, and then also here in Los Angeles, there's the Academy Awards Museum, I think is what it's called. Anyway, that's basically the Oscars museum. That
Yeah, I
it,
remember them announced that a few years ago. They're like, we're doing the Academy Awards Museum. And I was like,
yeah,
oh, cool. Like, yeah, it was after I'd been to LA. I was like, damn it, I have to now go back. But
I know.
yeah.
Well, next time you come back, you got to check it out. I think it opened a couple years ago during like kind of COVID, and the first kind of I don't know if it was the first. I should say one of the first kind of big exhibits they had was the Wizard of Oz, and they had more set pieces or more costumes, I should say, and memorabilia from the movie. And I was like, and their exhibit of it was like this huge room, and it was so immersive, and they were like playing the music, and I was like, I went in there, and I was like, oh my god, this is so crazy to like tangibly see something from that movie was such a strange
Mm.
moment for me because it just feels like it's so old and so you know dreamlike. I'm like, it's funny to see something like a physical item from that movie in real life.
Yeah.
I've seen a pair of the ruby slippers too, and I think that was at the Academy Awards Museum. They had a pair of her ruby slippers. So I'm like, I mean, you can't get more iconic than that. To see that one a pair of
Yeah.
her ruby slippers that she wore on screen is pretty crazy. So it's kind of hard for my brain to correlate that like what I was looking at was
Mm.
what was in the movie. Like I was having a hard time being like, no, that's it. Those are the ones that you watched all the time growing up.
That was one thing I really loved about when I was in LA. I spent about a week. No, not even. I think I spent like 6 days in LA. Actually, I proposed to my wife in LA. Actually,
Oh, really?
yeah, we got engaged at Universal Studios. I proposed her in front
Yeah,
of
that's awesome.
In front of Hogwarts Castle. Yeah,
Oh, that's memorable.
because she's a massive Harry Potter fan. So, but one thing I loved was it's such a movie town. And like that's I'm not saying anything new there. I think everyone knows that they're a big movie town,
Yeah,
but like you don't get it. Like I was very lucky. I got to go to the ArcLight before it closed down, so I went to the ArcLight twice while I was there, and they would
yeah.
have like all the costumes on display and like for a little kid who, or for a kid who grew up in Melbourne, Australia, loving film and kind of being the only one he knew that really liked film that way, to go somewhere like we love it all, we embrace it, come here. Like someone passed away. I think Mary Tyler Moore passed away while I was there, and like the next day there was like a wreath on her star, and it was just a celebration of everything that I've come to love. So hearing you talk about the Oscar Museum and stuff like that, I'm like, yes, like that's my jam. Like that's everything I love. Uh,
100%. You gotta go next time you're in town,
mm,
and LA really is cool like that. Like, I took, like when I was in high school, I came to visit LA and I took, like, one of those classic, like, Starline bus tours or whatever. They
mm,
show all the hotspots, and I've remembered so much of it, and so, like, I'll be, like, driving down the street, I'm like, "Oh, there's the apartment from Pretty Woman." I'm like, "Oh, that's this. Oh,
mm,
that's this." Like, it's just, like, funny driving around town, like, on my way to work, and you're just passing by these, like, they it looks like nothing, it just
yeah,
looks like a regular lamppost or a regular apartment, but, like, so many things here have so much history in TV shows and movies that we've all loved, or someone lived there, or that was Marilyn Monroe's first apartment. Like, there's so much things,
yeah.
like, around here that's so magical.
Well, that was actually the first thing I did in LA. Was we got to our hotel, we dropped our bags off, and we walked to Nancy's house from Nightmare on Elm Street, like because that was
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
around the corner from our house. But like we got to go check it out. So that was very cool.
Yeah, I've been
Uh,
there, it's super cool. Because it's
yeah,
really pretty much well, it looks pretty much exactly like it does in the movie.
yeah. Like it's been fixed up, so it looks a bit more modern and
Yeah,
like it's been taken care of. But yeah, it looks pretty identical. Now you
yeah.
mentioned something that I don't think I knew about you, and if you can't talk about it, obviously we can just stop there. But you work in television. Like, are you able to talk
Yeah,
about what you do, or
yeah, totally. No, I can talk about it. So I, actually work mostly in unscripted reality TV.
okay?
So, I do mostly game shows actually. So I'm a contestant producer. So
Oh,
I
cool.
basically, like, I don't know if the same shows that are on here if they air in Australia, but have you heard of Let's Make a Deal with Wayne Brady?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, a huge Wayne Brady fan because my wife and I love Whose Line Is It Anyway? So we've always loved Wayne
Okay.
Brady. We
Yeah.
don't have Let's Make a Deal here, but because I love everything that comes out of Los Angeles, I'm aware of it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's like an old, like, Monty Hall used to host it, and like for years and years and years. It's been on for for a long, long time. But
yeah. Like since the '70s, hasn't it? Like it's been around for
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it came in the late '60s, actually. I think it came around the late '60s, if I'm thinking I should probably know that because I work on that show, but, don't fire me if you're listening to this, my boss.
Oh, if
But
they're listening to this, I've made it. So,
I know,
uh,
exactly, there you go. Um, it got brought back in 2008 with Wayne Brady, and he's been hosting it for the past 15 seasons. So he's incredible, but, so that's kind of like I've been working on that show since 2018. It was actually my first job right out of college. I started as just like a production assistant, which is basically just like an entry level job on any
yeah,
set. And then now I'm on the contestant producing team. So, like, anyone who comes on the show and gets, like, we kind of help prep everyone who's a contestant about how to talk about yourself, what he might ask you. Here's some things to remember about being on TV. We're kind of like your go-to guys, for the contestants on the show. And so I do a lot of that kind of work. I've worked on Supermarket Sweep and Press Your Luck with Elizabeth Banks and
that's cool.
a couple other things. But I'm freelance, so I'm on Let's Make a Deal for about 5 or 6 months of the year because that's about as long as we film. And then the other half of the year, I kind of bounce around from project to project.
That's cool, man. Look, you're out there doing it. Like you're working. Like no, like that's really cool. Like, and you don't think about that role, but that is such an important role. And you mentioned, like, as I said, like Wayne Brady is a household name for us because we love him. He just seems like a
Yeah,
genuinely lovely guy,
yeah, he is.
and very like funny. Like his appearances on
Yeah,
How I Met Your Mother and all his improv stuff. So,
yeah,
so that's very impressive to me. But like that's so cool that like you always hear people like I moved to LA to follow my dream, and then I moved back home and stuff like that because everyone always associates LA with just like acting or
yeah.
or filmmaking, but you're like, no, no, look, I'm living in LA and I'm doing a job, and it sounds like a very cool job, and you get to
It
like
is,
meet
and
cool people and stuff.
I didn't even know that job existed. I kind of fell into it as many people do with their job, and I was like, "Oh, I'm good at this," and I'm fun because basically, I'm very, you guys can probably tell because I'm so annoying, but I'm very extroverted and talkative. So like it's a good job for me because basically I talk to people all day long. And I'm like, I'm definitely not someone that's ever going to be sitting in an office doing paperwork. So it's a good job for me to be on my feet and to be talking. So like I said, certainly not making movies like The Wizard of Oz, but I'm still, in kind of the showbiz business a little bit. But it like I said, to kind of bring it back to that movie, it inspired me to come to Hollywood. It was one of the original things that kind of was like, oh, that's what humans can make and create. So
Yeah.
yeah, I get part of that a little bit.
No, I like unscripted. Like I don't watch a lot of unscripted. Like I haven't watched a lot of unscripted stuff recently, but I'll go and watch stuff. Like I was there, or I wasn't there, but like I remember when True TV switched from like being the network it was to being a comedy network, and when they introduced like Practical
Mhm.
Jokers, like I remember that swap over, and I was like, oh, I'm really digging this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So I've done some since unscripted. My wife loves it. She like obviously she refers to it as like trashy TV, but like she'll watch
I love, yes.
what's that one? What's the one with Tan and Gigi Hadid's the runway
Oh,
show?
next in fashion.
That's what, yeah,
Uh,
like during the pandemic, she got obsessed with that, and I did that the husband thing. Where I walked past, I'm like, what is this? And like the
yeah,
next day, I'm like, you're still watching this, and day three, I'm hooked. Like it's
of
just
course,
like,
of
yeah.
course. Well,
So
it's
I love
funny
all the
because
unscripted stuff.
most
Yeah,
of the TV I watch is like reality TV. Like I love Housewives, I love all that stuff. So it's like my interests are all over the place. I'm like horror movies and Bravo TV.
yeah.
Housewives. It's like
That's the important stuff though. Like you can you can stick to a niche, but variety is the spice of life.
yeah.
Um,
um,
and like worst case scenario, if you like ever did feel shame about, and I don't think you would, but if you did you like, well, it's research for work. You can just write it off as like a work
Exactly. That's
expense.
right. There you go. Yeah.
I think Wizard of Oz is a great first pick. I'm so glad someone finally brought it up. Who's your obviously Dorothy is front and center. She's fantastic. Who's your favorite sidekick out of the gang? Like,
Oh, that's a good question. Uh, oh my God. Okay. I think I would choose the Cowardly Lion.
me too. Yeah, yeah.
Bert Lahr's performance like still makes me laugh. Like some of his line deliveries are just so good in it. Like it really does make me laugh a lot. I mean, I was tempted to say Scarecrow just because he's so iconic, and also don't get me started. When she said my one criticism of the movie that I don't like about the movie is when she gets to the end of the movie and she's about to go home, and she quote unquote whispers, fucking loud enough for the whole crew to hear, fucking bitch. And she whispers to Scarecrow, and she's like, "I think I'll miss you most of all." I'm like, if I was the Tin Man, I'd be like, "Are you kidding me, bitch? I just walked down this yellow brick road for assumingly days. I don't really know how long they were really out there. It's kind of ambiguous, but I'm like, and almost got killed by a witch, got ripped apart by monkeys, and you're gonna go tell him that he's your favorite one in front of all of us?
I
Like that's
agree. Yeah, that's
the
so
one
funny.
part of the movie where I'm like, you didn't have to say that, Dorothy. It's okay to feel that, but just keep that to yourself.
That's so funny. I think they did a bit like that on Family Guy like years ago, where they're like, "Oh,
Oh, I'm sure
nice."
they did.
Yeah, like it's so
Yeah.
funny. Like that's what I'm going through with my daughter at the moment. She's just started kindergarten. I guess you call it preschool because she hasn't started school yet. But kindergarten, and one thing like she'll say like, "Oh, I don't want to play with this person." I'm like, "That's okay. Like that's cool. You don't play with them when you don't want to. Just don't tell them that. Like,
Right, right.
don't be like Dorothy at the end of Wizard of Oz. Like,
Oh,
just everyone's the same in your eyes, and then if you don't like them, it's cool."
well,
Uh,
it's funny because that movie too is like, if you want to look up interesting how movies are made, like the stories from that set are so fascinating, and like the what those people had to go through for, and just taking Bert Lahr, who played the Cowardly Lion, like I never really know if I'm saying anyone's name right, so that's what I think his name is pronounced, but his costume was made out of real lion's pelt and it weighed like 90 pounds. So
oh my
imagine
god.
that under like the bright the fucking lights of Technicolor that they had to use.
Yeah.
It was like 90 degrees on set and he's in a 90-pound lion's pelt. Like
Smelling all that lead-based paint, like
exactly. Like everyone's near death experiences, and Judy Garland was on a diet of like cigarettes and diet pills, and it's
yeah,
like,
that is the sad underbelly of that movie, isn't it?
yeah,
Like
but
she,
yeah, I mean
yeah.
the lore around the movie is like you could be here for days. There is a really interesting there's a really great TikTok account and she's really big. She's I always see people tagging her and stuff, but I think she's called the Oz Vlog,
Okay.
and she is like a die-hard Wizard of Oz fan. Like you know, her videos are like in a room where you can see all her memorabilia. She collects everything that is super vintage to more recent, and it's like her whole TikTok account is just talking about the Wizard of Oz and kind of debunking some of the myths and the lore. And she's really knowledgeable. She's really lovable, and I definitely recommend if you want to learn anything about the movie. Like her TikTok account is fabulous, and I have been watching her videos for a long time. I think it's called the Oz Vlog, if I remember correctly.
Nice.
But
That's very cool.
it's
Listeners
super,
should definitely go check that out. Yeah.
yeah,
Nice one, man. That's a strong start.
yeah,
And as was expected, there's lots of chatter there as well.
yeah.
What's next up on your list?
Okay, well, it's obviously Halloween. Halloween, and here's the thing. When people ask me this, I just kinda see the franchise in general because 'cause I'm like, Halloween franchise is like, I could watch all of them, I love them all. If you're gonna make me choose, it's gonna be the original one, with a close runner-up of the 2018 one that they when they
Yes.
rebooted it, but, I guess for the sake of this conversation, just the original one,
We
and
can talk about the franchise. That's totally fine. Like,
yeah,
let's.
but then it really is, like, I just love the Halloween franchise, so to kinda that's it was one of the first horror movies I ever saw. How October my birthday's in October, Halloween's my favorite holiday, Halloween's my
Mm,
favorite movie, so it makes me feel some type of way when I start hearing the score from from
that's
that movie, I
so
should say.
perfect. That score.
Yeah. So I absolutely Michael Myers is my favorite kind of the kind of horror titans, the horror slashers, he's kind of
Mm,
my main guy, and, I love and you actually recently you talked about going to the Nancy house from Nightmare on Elm Street. There's a lot of Halloween filmed here in Pasadena and in West Hollywood, and so I'm surprised it took me this long to do it. I had seen some of the filming locations here in West Hollywood because 'cause they're, like, less than 10 minutes from my house,
yeah.
but I went to go I Pasadena is about 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes from me, and so I went and did, like, a little tour by myself a couple weeks ago to go see, like, the Myers house is there,
Nice.
Laurie Strode's house from the original movie is there, the hedge that he kinda pops out in with that infamous shot is there, so I kinda took myself on a little Halloween tour, and a lot of the walking shots of her and her friends, you know, Laurie and her friends coming back from class that day, a lot of those neighborhoods are all, like, Pasadena neighborhoods, so you kinda walk around Pasadena, and I'm like, "Oh, I really do feel like I'm in a John Carpenter movie right now."
Yeah. That first one's so iconic, and that's another one. Like I talked about my dad recommending stuff. Like my dad, not a horror guy, but he was like, "Oh, Halloween, you got to check out Halloween." Um,
Yeah.
and that first, again, like talk about films that hold up. Like it's so good.
It's
Um,
so good. There's no I mean, I trust me, I'm not trying to poo-poo gore and violence, but there's no blood in that movie at all, and it's still so scary. Like,
yeah,
it's so good.
it's and I really like the franchise as well. Like growing up, my guy was Jason, but he hasn't been on our screens for like 15 years now. Like I know he's coming back on TV, that doesn't count. But we haven't seen him in a while. So like since then, I've been like trying to find a new guy, and it is between Michael Myers and Ghostface. Like I think they're both so iconic. But that
Yeah.
Halloween flick is great. Now you said you love all of them. Um, one point of content of I guess of contention for some people is the Rob Zombie of it all. So where do you kind of feel about how do you feel about those ones?
I should say okay, maybe I do love all of them. I will watch all of them frequently. Do I recommend all of them? No. Like, I guess that's the best way to put it. Okay, the Rob Zombie of it all. So I kinda have an evolution with that. When the movie first came out, I was pretty young, like, I was in, like, early middle school when that movie came out,
Yeah.
and it is I hated it at first. When I
Yep.
first watched it the first couple times, I was like, "This is not what I think." Again, I was younger, so I think my mind was I was maybe a little bit more narrow-minded when it came to what I accepted in a film or a reinterpretation of a film. I think I just totally thought I knew what I was going in for, and then when I saw it, I was like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
And the older I get, I have found a lot of things that I really love that he did with it, but I still have a lot of criticisms. My biggest one being is that the first hour of the movie, I think it is uh, I just think he spends too much time about the myth I mean, I guess about Michael's childhood. Like, I
Yep.
think it kind of drags on, which I think is a lot of people's complaint. I don't necessarily mind getting into it a little bit, But that first half of the movie is kind of slow for me, and that's big really my biggest issue with it. Once the movie kinda starts into the storyline that we know and love, once it kinda starts with Laurie Strode modern day walking home with her friends, I do enjoy that part of the movie. Like,
Mm,
there is some really good chase scenes, there's some really fucking violent, brutal, like, that kinda ending scene he added where I think they're in the Myers house and he's, like, just bashing in the walls with his hands and just
yeah, yeah,
like, poor Laurie Strode goes through a lot in that movie, and it is a blood fest. Like,
yeah.
there's a lot of those scenes that I really like that are really effective and really scary. Um, but the first half of the movie, it just is white hillbilly trash. Like,
Yeah, it and very mean-spirited. Very like,
really.
and it's interesting because I think the Rob Zombie Halloween is the first Halloween movie I ever saw. So, and I was just getting
Oh,
it. I was
interesting.
really starting to
Okay.
embrace horror. I loved it. I was like, this is so scary. Like, it's so violent. This is really cool. Um, and then went back and saw the original. I was like, well, this is obviously the masterpiece. But I like what Rob Zombie did. And the first time I saw the 2018 version, I thought it was fine. I was like, I don't really get what everyone's saying about this flick. Like, it's fine. Had that really cool one shot of like, the camera like sits on the house and Michael breaks in through the back. Like, that's so cool.
Yes.
But I was like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
really get it. And then I rewatched Rob Zombies after that, and I was like, oh, I get it now. We're
Mhm,
spending too much time with Michael. Like, we're not getting any Laurie stuff. Um,
mhm.
and that changed my opinion. I still like the Rob Zombie one, but yeah, like you saying that, it took me a long time to get to that place. But now that I've done it, now that I'm there, I'm like, oh, I see it. And I'm
Yeah.
like most people, I really didn't like the second Rob Zombie one. I
It's
rewatched it
terrible.
last
That's my
year.
least favorite one. Like, I've tried many times to watch it, and out of all the Halloweens that have been made, even Halloween Resurrection, I
Mm.
think Rob Zombie's H2 is the bottom, like, the very last one I would
It
like.
does a lot of stuff that's very strange and out of character. Like I wasn't a huge fan of Michael with no mask and talking, but
Yeah, he
the tr-
barely has a mask on in it. Like, it's
yeah.
like a piece of, like, fabric holding on, and then the whole white horse, like, dream sequence things with
Mm.
his mom, I was like, let's just not."
Well, I heard that Rob Zombie wasn't really interested in making a sequel, but the studio really wanted to, so he made a film that they wouldn't be able to make a sequel to. Like that was his whole purpose for that film was to make sure they couldn't sequelize it.
Yeah.
But I rewatched it last year. It just came out on Blu-ray over here, and one thing I did like about it that I'd forgotten was I think he handled the trauma of Laurie really well. It's something that hasn't really until David Gordon Green stepped in. We hadn't really explored Laurie's trauma before, and I thought that he did a really good job with that. And that's probably the most fascinating part. But it is, yeah, there's some stuff to like, and there's some stuff not to like as well.
Yeah, I actually thought like, when I first saw his sequel, I thought we were off to a good start because I liked that they paid homage to the actual to the
Mm,
original Halloween 2 with the whole hospital sequence, and he kinda started it off like a typical horror movie. I was like, "Oh, okay, we're just going right into the action. Here we go." And then it gets that's kind of the only like, the first 15 minutes I like, and then after that, it gets really artsy, and I think it's too much was trying to happen, but you're right, I saw an interview with him the other day, and I don't know, I forget who the interview was with, but yeah, he was talking about how he basically did not want to make a sequel, but I think he was stuck in a contract with Miramax, and he basically
yeah.
with the Weinsteins. Oh God, but he
If only that was the
talked
worst thing that came out of that studio. Like,
exactly. Well,
yeah,
I think Rob, I heard an interview. He basically said like, "Okay, I will make a Halloween. I will direct Halloween 2 if you let me out of my contract." Basically,
yeah,
so I think it was his like, yeah, kind of like you said, like, fine, I'm gonna make one more movie, but I'm gonna do it my way, and we know his way can be kind of interesting sometimes. So,
yeah, yeah,
so
100%.
yeah,
He did give us the most brutal Michael Myers until Halloween Kills, which I think is my favorite version of the character. I know that the Halloween Kills is a controversial one and ends
I
even
love
more
Halloween
so.
Kills.
Me
Yeah,
too. I watched that movie and I remember like I was talking to a friend of mine and she was like, "Look," she goes, "Watch it if you want, but it's not very good." And I watched it. I'm sitting there, and Halloween Kills is doing things that I've never seen in a Halloween film before. Like I just mentioned before, like the trauma of Laurie Strode. Like I don't see Halloween Kills as a horror film. Like people are like, oh, people didn't think it was scary enough. It wasn't Michael Myers enough. Like that isn't a horror film. That is a drama about kind of shared trauma. That's all that movie is. And because it
yeah,
is so different, they throw the most brutal kills you've ever seen into it.
yeah.
Like Cameron's death, like his dad's death, the
Oof,
SUV
yeah,
getting like busted up. Like
yeah.
so, And I like that movie made me cry. Like there was a moment like where there's like such a like beautiful moment. Like I actually was like, oh my god, like this is making me cry. I can't believe it. Like I think Kills is really underrated.
I really liked it a lot, and I think that Halloween 2018 into Halloween Kills is a really strong back to back,
Mm.
and then Halloween Ends comes around, and that's a whole other conversation. But I really Kills. I will say Halloween Kills got a little cheesy at times. I don't mind the group trauma thing, but when they started chanting "Evil must die," I was like, "All right, okay, let's not do that part." But I actually did get emotional, because there's that scene where they kind of all jump on the bandwagon and think that I forget, like, that guy who's definitely mentally disabled, and they, like, think that he's Michael Myers,
Mm,
and they chase him through the hole, and Judy Greer tries to help him escape, and she's like, "They're going to kill you," and he's totally innocent, and he ends up jumping to his death because they're all, like, chasing him through the hospital. I'm like,
mm.
that scene got me really emotional because 'cause I'm like, "This poor dude." I
Yeah,
forget at exactly how that scene starts, but they're basically chasing the wrong guy through, and he's not able to vocalize. He doesn't have the ability to vocalize that I'm not
yeah,
Michael. And it's really sad.
yeah. No, that's a great scene. Yeah, I really
Yeah.
like it. You mentioned Judy Greer. Like that film is so heartbreaking because I love Judy Greer, and to see her die at the end. Spoiler alert! Like she leaves us. Like I can't remember the girl's name now, but Andy Matichak's her
Yes.
character. Like Allison
Allison.
loses both her parents in the same night. Like, do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like that's insane. And oh my god, like
But
I
Judy
love
Greer
that
gives us
film.
the best line, I think, one of my favorite lines in a movie ever, and for sure the best line of the franchise in Halloween 2018, when she's in the basement and she pretends she's like, "Mom, I can't do it. I can't do it." And
Yeah,
so Michael Pierce and she's like, "Gotcha." And she has her shotgun
yeah, yeah.
and then she's like, "Happy Halloween, Michael." That whole 30 seconds, like, I get chills thinking about it. Like,
Mm.
it's so good. Judy Greer delivered that line like no one else.
Yeah, I don't understand people not liking Kills. Like even the opening scene where like they're riding because it picks up where they left off. They're riding away from the farmhouse or whatever. It's all on fire, and you can see the fire trucks coming. She's like, "No, don't go there." And then like Michael comes out with an axe and he's like hacking up the
Oh my
firefighters.
god, he fucks up those firefighters.
Yeah, it
That's such a
reminded me actually a
good
little bit of the opening of the Hills Have Eyes remake, where they're in
yeah,
their radiation suits and then the axe. I
totally.
love a good axe, you know.
Exactly, there you go. Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, Halloween is forever gonna be, like, and I know they're making it into a TV show now,
Oh, are they?
A24.
Oh,
I think
I did read that. I'm so over this trend of turning movies into TV shows. Just like,
I well, here's the thing is I overall feel like it does not need to be done. There is a part of me that's, like, gonna get a little excited anytime I know Michael's gonna be on my TV or my screen anytime soon, but I just feel like we just wrapped up, like, a reboot of the series. Like,
mm,
let's at least 5, 6, 7, 10 more years until we do a different interpretation, you know?
yeah.
Like, we just wrapped it up, and for the most part, we wrapped up what I feel was, like, a pretty good a pretty good reboot, of the series.
I agree, and like I've talked about it on the podcast before, and I won't. I know it's going to open a whole can of worms if we talk about it too much, but I actually quite like ends. I understand why people don't like ends, but I think there's a lot to be admired for that film. Like it takes a lot of big swings, and I think like unlike most horror franchises, it really does give you a definitive ending. Like it gives you kind of like
Oh,
some
yeah,
closure
there's
and
no
stuff like
question
that. So
about
some stuff in there I really do like. Um, but yeah, we don't need to go straight into it on TV now that it's wrapped up.
that. Yeah. Yeah, Ends was I like I said, it's a whole can of worms. I think the best way to summarize my feelings is, like, if it were a standalone movie in a separate universe, I could get down. I can be like,
Mm,
"Okay, this is totally different." I think I personally, and I think a lot of fans wanted something else as a bookend to those 2 specific movies. I feel like it didn't really do that in the way that I wanted it to. It didn't give me the final fight I wanted.
yeah.
There are things about it that I appreciated, and I've rewatched it a couple times, and I'm finding new things to like about it, but I was kinda disappointed with it. But again, if it was kind of an unrelated standalone movie, like, I can appreciate it, but again, just for what they had built up, I just didn't feel like it was quite the right closing for what they
I
had.
always questioned whether it was deliberate because everyone hated the original Halloween 3 as well. I'm like, I wonder if this like they've deliberately made a movie that's going to upset people because that's what Halloween
I would be
does.
surprised. Yeah, I mean,
You
even
get a really
thematically
strong opener, a second one that some people love, some people don't like, and the third one everyone hates until about 20 years later, and then they discover it and they love it. Like maybe that's what they've
Right,
done.
right. Yeah, give it some time. It might become a cult classic, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah.
um, oh man, this list is strong, and we're not even halfway through. What is
Okay.
what's number three, Kyle?
Three, well, you can tell by my shirt here. I talked about it
Yes,
last time we were together. I'm a huge Scream fan. I think Halloween and Scream are like the, kind of the pinnacles of horror here. So Scream, I think it's such a strong franchise. Every single entry has it's honestly, truly, objectively very good. I don't care what anyone says.
I
You
agree.
can like you can watch any of them and be like, that was a very solid movie and had a lot
Yeah,
of cool things going on. Scream has my favorite Scream Queen. As much as I love Halloween, I am a Sydney Prescott girl.
yeah.
Like she is so badass, so strong, so awesome. Nev Campbell just plays it perfectly. Of course, you have Courtney Cox who kills it as Gail Weathers in every entry. Um, Scream is yeah, I absolutely love the franchise. Again, if you make me choose, this is a very controversial opinion, but I am a Scream 3 fanatic. It is my favorite.
I do know this about you. Yeah,
Yes,
we
I
can go
know, and
whole
I will die
franchise.
on this hill.
We can go whole franchise for sure. Um,
Yeah,
I agree with you. We talked a lot about Scream when we met on
we did
Michael's
because we talked
show.
about Scream 6, which is my second favorite. It's a very close, but we talked about Scream 6 on Michael's podcast. But yeah,
I rewatched it earlier this year. I say earlier; it's only just started March. I think I've watched almost 80 films this year already. It's crazy.
wow, that's good.
I don't have a life, but I rewatched 5 and 6 back to back for the first time, and I really dug that adventure quite a bit. I'm really frustrated with what's going on with 7 now because obviously
Yep.
no one's attached. The director's gone. Like the actors that
Very
we
tricky
all like to.
situation with it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I don't know and honestly, I don't know what the future holds because of everything going on. But as unsure about the franchise as I am about the future of the franchise, I can at least look back and be like, these six though,
yeah,
damn, they stand pretty tall. I would say Scream 5 is my least favorite one. That being said, I still like it. I still think
yeah.
it's great. I still think it's worth watching. It is at the bottom of my list, and Scream 3 and Scream 6 are like kind of my top two. But Scream 3 is I again kind of like we talked about Wizard of Oz. I love well, Wizard of Oz is not based, it's not a movie about LA, but I love movies kind of about Hollywood. I love
Yeah,
kind of that meta-ness. So the fact that Scream 3 takes place in Hollywood on a movie set always interests me. And like growing up,
yeah.
I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. So that's one of the reasons I love Scream 3 is that it is like takes place in Hollywood and is, I mean, they're all very meta, but um I and Parker Posey's in it, and she's just the greatest comedic relief of all time.
She's great in everything. Like I
Every
struggle to think of a lesser known actor who has been more consistent. And not to say she's not known, but like if I drop the name Parker Posey in conversation to 10 different people, at least 9 of them probably don't know who I'm talking about. Like, which is a real shame. Like she's such a great character
same.
actress.
'Cause I just look at her face and I start laughing because I'm like, she is just a comedic genius. Like, talk about Best in Show or Waiting for Guffman
Oh, you wait
or
for
Josie and the
Guffman. I don't
Pussycats.
know. Go back and work at the DQ, I guess. Like just
Yeah, yeah. Or
uh,
even Josie and the Pussycats, her as Fiona with that crazy outfit. She was so good.
yes, she's
Yeah.
great. Everything. Like if her name's on it, it's a stamp of approval for me. I'm like, gotta go check it
100%.
out.
I will watch something just because her name is attached to it.
And she was in the much maligned Beau is Afraid, and she's fantastic in that as well. Like,
Oh, that's right.
take,
She is. I still haven't seen that movie yet, but I know.
takes a
I
long
think,
time to get to her, and
but it's worth the
it
wait.
will be an endurance test. Like if you, like, I
Yeah,
loved Beau is Afraid, but I know a lot of people didn't. Like, so if you're not digging it, it's a long time to wait. But when she does show up, she's fantastic.
I love that. Yeah, I again like Scream is just Halloween. Anytime anyone asks me my favorite horror movies, which by the way, my favorite, if we were just doing a list of my favorite horror movies, that my list might look a little different than this, obviously, but Halloween and Scream will always be my top two answers. I'm like, it just doesn't get much better than that. And I also they're so intertwined, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, because Wes Craven was so inspired. I actually in college did a whole report about how Wes Craven was so inspired by John Carpenter.
Mm,
So they are so entwined because without Halloween, you wouldn't have Scream. You know what I mean? Because Scream is so much based on the rules that Halloween set up for us, and they literally
mm.
watch Halloween and Scream. So the fact that those two, I just feel like they go together so perfectly. And they're like sister movies and or mother and son. I don't know what you want to call it, mother daughter movies in
There's
so
some
many
sort of
ways.
there's some blood involved. They're
Yeah,
related. So
yeah,
I agree with you. Like Scream was a franchise I didn't care about for the longest time. I didn't see. I think like the first one I saw was 3, and I only watched Scream 3 first because I knew that Jay and Silent Bob were in it, and I was a big Jay and Silent Bob fan.
Yeah.
So I checked that out, and I wasn't a big fan of it. And then I saw 1 and 2 in my late 20s, but by that point, I'd watched the scary movie films so often that I knew what to expect and didn't really do much for me.
Yeah.
Um, but then a couple of years ago, I interviewed a couple of filmmakers, Tyler and Harley. They were on Michael's show as well, and they're making a Scream fan film. And I was like, oh,
That's
before I interview them, I should rewatch the first Scream film. And I don't know
yeah.
what happened, but I was like, it clicked. Like it hadn't
Mhm.
clicked, and then suddenly, like at age 32, 33, Scream clicked with me. I'm like, this is genius. How did I not see this before? And now I've
Mhm.
gone through, and I'm with you. I think it's arguably the most consistent horror franchise we have. I think it makes
Mhm.
very few poor choices. I think it
Yeah.
sticks to it. It sticks to its rules very well. I think it's always scary, and the lower numbers means lower chance for bad sequels. I think it's really really consistent. Texas Chainsaw Massacre used to be like that. They had a couple of bad sequels in there. Halloween's got its ups and downs, but I like all the Halloween films as well. Actually,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Well,
I think Scream is very very strong.
well, even with Halloween, like, I'm like, there's definitely some, like, for example, like, if you wanna get into the nitty-gritty, I'm like, Halloween 5, or Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers and Halloween Resurrection, and some of these ones I'm like, "Are they good?" Objectively, no. Will I
Mm.
watch them? 100% because I still like the vibes of watching a Halloween movie, but,
Yeah, of
like, with
course.
some, I'm like, "No, no, no. If you're new to this, watch every single one." Whereas if you're new to Halloween, I'm like, "Don't watch all of them." Like, if you're just, like, kind of a passing by fan, let's curate your experience more, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But, like, if you're new to the Scream franchise, I'm like, "No, no, you gotta start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you gotta go to 6."
Halloween's a tough one also because the timeline changes so many times. Like you can just watch 1 and 2, or you can
Yeah,
watch 1 and the 2018 one, or you can do 1 and
yeah,
7, or like it's that's they've retconned it so many times. Whereas Scream is very consistent.
yes.
My
They've
favorite
done a
Scream
pretty good
film
job
was
about building on the story, I think. The story Scream is so operatic, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's just soap opera, but I love that it kinda plays into it a little bit. They're like, "Yeah, this storyline is getting even dirtier." You know what I mean? Like, it's getting even
yeah.
messy, but I
No,
love it. I felt like they built on it so well.
no, I love them all. For the longest time, 4 was my favorite. I think 4 is still very much up there. I think 4 is really underrated. But
4 is
just
my
for
favorite killer. Jill is my favorite
she's
Ghostface as
so
well.
good. Yeah,
I will
mine.
say Jill is the only Ghostface I actually was surprised by, I will say that. All the other ones
Mm,
I was kinda like, "Yeah, I saw that coming," or, not that shocked." Jill was the one I remember being gooped, gagged, shocked, all I was like, "What?" I was
yeah.
like, "No way." It was genius.
And that ghost face is brutal as well. Like the cops get like messed up in that one at the front of Jill's house.
Stabbed right in the fucking head, which is
Yeah. Anthony
yeah,
Anderson of all actors as well, like well-known comedian Anthony Anderson getting
yep.
stabbed in the head,
And
and Adam
Adrian
Brody.
Adam oh god. See, I always say Adrian Brody, which is obviously a very different actor. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I always get their names mixed up, but it's Adam Brody from the OC. Yes, Adam Brody.
No,
But yeah,
they're all great. They're all really, really good. I think like for the first 5-10 minutes of Scream 4 alone, you have to watch it just because like they really
so
take the meta to the next level, and I
yes,
love it.
they sure
Yeah.
do. Yeah,
The,
I love it. I love it.
Never before have so many blonde actresses been in one film. Like just
I love it. Anna Paquin and Kristen Bell, I'm like, that is perfect.
yeah, it's great. Oh, that's great, man. I'm loving your list. What's next up? What's number 2?
All right. Well, deviating from the horror movie things, and it's really funny because you dropped this earlier, and I was like, "Oh, that's a little foreshadowing." This is so niche, but Charlie's Angels 2, Full
Full
Throttle,
Throttle.
specifically Full Throttle. Well, let me just say this: I love both the Charlie's Angels movies, but Full Throttle specifically was just a movie that I watched on repeat as a kid. Like, I was obsessed with it. Like, I probably went through 6 different DVDs of it because I watched it on every road trip. It was like my go-to, like, sleepover movie. It was so good. I love Charlie's Angels too. It is, and I just watched it the other night. It's one of those movies that, like, I probably know every single line from the start of the movie
Mm.
to the end of the movie, and it's so because Cameron Diaz is really my favorite actress, which is, I know, it's so kind of random, but I think she's the most, like, lovable, magnetic, adorable person in the
I
whole
think she
world.
was my first like actress crush. Like
That's well earned.
I think
Yes.
Charlie's Angels. Like I saw the first Charlie's Angels. I'm like, who is this? And then Charlie's Angels 2. Like and then I saw The Mask. Like I somehow saw Charlie's Angels before The Mask. But any like teenage boy who's into women sees The Mask and her in that red dress for the first time and just like,
Um,
like yeah,
yeah.
like yeah.
And Charlie's Angels 2 is just I think the best way to describe it, it's just fucking fun. Like, it's just
Yes.
a really good time. Like well, let me ask, have you seen the sequel?
Yes, yeah. I've seen all the Charlie's Angels films. I've seen the first two,
Okay.
and I've seen the remake with Kristen Stewart as well. So,
Okay. Okay,
um,
perfect. Yeah. Like, there's something about Full Throttle where it was like they were like, "We're not gonna have any scenes of just, like, quiet dialogue or any sort of normal conversation. It's just gonna be, like, bit after bit after bit after
mm,
bit." They do this CSI crime scene investigation bit, they do the whole motocross scene, they do the whole striptease scene, they do the beach scene. It's like every single thing is just eye candy.
yeah.
First of all, the cameos that they got, Demi Moore is the most iconic villain in that as Madison Lee, the
Yes,
fallen
and that
angel.
whole scene where she's where they've got that "I never met a girl like you
Yes, when
before."
they're all in
It's
Hollywood and they're getting ready, and
yes,
Justin Theroux's in it, um,
yes.
and they also have the Playboy Mansion in it, which doubles as the nunnery that Carrie Fisher works at, like, it's all so crazy, and it's like, I just love it, it's so much fun, and the director, McG, he did the other I think he did both Charlie's Angels movies, he did the Babysitter movies
I
for
love the
Netflix.
babysitter movies. They're really
Yes.
underrated. Yeah.
100%, and I think he did either directed I know for sure he produced, but I think he also directed a lot of the Supernatural TV series,
Okay.
um, and his tone is so specific because he's not full parody, not full spoof, but very silly. The humor that's, like, my kinda humor, like, does not take itself that seriously, and I think Charlie's Angels 2 has so many good the girls are all great at it, but they have so
Yeah.
many really funny lines, like, the whole going bit about her dad about, Alex, Lu who played by Lucy Liu, her dad comes in visiting her, and the whole gag of the whole movie being that he thinks she's a prostitute, and she's talking about
Yes.
how
Yes.
she got down and dirty with a bunch of sailors, and her and Alex took them out. Her and Natalie took them out together, and like,
Yeah. There's a
uh,
woman this time. Yeah.
yeah,
Like.
it was I couldn't believe it that I'm covered in God knows what.
Yeah.
Um, the whole opening
Forgot about
scene
that.
too is so funny, like, I actually didn't I kinda came to Indiana Jones later in life, but it took me a long time to realize because 'cause I'd seen Charlie's Angels 2 first, that that whole, like, opening scene where they're in, like, the Himalayas is an homage to Indiana Jones,
Oh
and
yeah. I haven't seen
and
Full Throttle in a long time. I've got it on my
yeah,
shelf, I think. But
and
yeah.
Cameron Diaz comes in, like, she's like, "This is hostile, yeah," and, like, her
Yes,
little
that's right. Yes, and they're doing the drinking game.
yes, and Drew Barrymore, her character's name is Dylan, and I think that's if I remember correctly, because I remember because I was watching Indiana Jones, I'm like, wait, this is Charlie's Angels 2 Full Throttle, like like line for line when Drew Barrymore's pretending like speaking the native tongue and like drinking with them and like drinking them all under the table. I think that, and I was like, so much of this, I didn't realize. Like, I also love that McG pulled in all the. You can tell he's like a lover of pop culture because he's in
Mm.
pulling in all these references. And there's another really great montage where the girls think that Cameron Diaz is gonna get married and leave them, so there's a whole dream sequence of "Good morning, Charlie," and it's like
Yep.
New Girl every time, and it's
Yeah.
Drew Barrymore and Eve, the rapper Eve, and then it's Drew
That's right.
Barrymore,
Yeah.
Kate and Ashley, and it's just like all these crazy references. It's
Isn't she
awesome.
like in old woman makeup as well? Like she's like 80
Yes,
years old
yeah,
and still.
and Mary Kate and Ashley are, like, in their prime, they're, like, 17 years old, on
Yeah.
top of the world, and there's Drew Barrymore in her old age makeup, like, "Good morning, Charlie," and she's like
And remember, Dylan. We find out Dylan isn't her name. She's actually Helen
Helen
Zass. So,
Zass.
yeah.
Helen Zass,
Yeah.
yeah.
I haven't thought about
Justin
that movie
Theroux,
in so long, but that's a really fun movie. Um,
it's so fun, like,
I
I
saw
don't
that
care
in
what the
theaters. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
it's just like, anyone that you can't walk yes, and also I have to laugh because some of the scenes in there are so ridiculous, like, the CGI obviously is very outdated, and some of the stunts are, like, crazy, like, the motocross scene, they're, like, doing these huge flips and then, like, flying off the bike, and they're, like, in the air for, like, 5 minutes, like, shooting and dodging bullets. I'm like, it's like, some of the stunts are just so crazy, like, I don't think intentionally at the time we're supposed to be that laughable, but now, looking back, you're like, "Look, I can suspend my disbelief for a lot of things, but some of these stunts that they're trying to tell us they're pulling off are crazy."
And was it Shia LaBeouf? Was he the boy? Was he the lion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always forget that he's in it, and then every time I watch it, I'm like, "Oh," it, like, startles me, I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right." Like, it was fresh off Disney Channel, and he's in that movie, and Bernie Mac is in it, RIP,
Yeah,
he's
he replaced Bill Murray
Bobby.
because
Yeah,
apparently
which
Bill
I
Murray
actually
and Lucy Liu
preferred
did
Bernie
not.
Mac. I like Bernie Mac better
I
as
think he's
Boz.
more charming. Yeah, like, I did like Bill Murray, and I'm a big Bill Murray fan. But
Yeah.
I do think that for the role, the only Bill Murray gag I really liked in the first one is when he's locked in the tower and he like carves the gun
Yeah.
out of it. Yeah, like.
Exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, the
But
first one is, don't get me wrong, the first one is really good too, and I would say maybe objectively it's a little bit more of a linear film. Like it's like more of like it has more of a story to tell. And
mm,
then in two, it's just like we're gonna have a fucking blast. And we're just
mm.
gonna like let these girls be in like the craziest outfits, doing the craziest stunts, giving you bit after bit. Like it's so good.
I was always shocked they didn't go for a third one. The second one mustn't have made enough money because that first one, yeah, I really like. The first one has a really great soundtrack as well. Like I can't remember all the soundtrack of two except for the Pink song because obviously she made her cinematic debut there as
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
motocross racer or whatever.
100%. Yeah.
But the first one had a really good soundtrack, and yeah, Sam Rockwell. Like that was the first time I discovered
Yes,
Sam
that's
Rockwell
right.
loves to dance in every movie.
And I love
Um,
that Dylan's always the whore that like falls in love with the bad guy.
yeah.
And so yeah.
Yeah, she makes a joke about it. There's like a meta reference to it in the second one, which is like every time.
Yeah, every
Yeah.
time. Yeah, and I also love that in both movies, Cameron Diaz gets a dancing scene. In the first one, she goes to Soul Train and she does like the
Yes.
front
Yes.
back. And the second one, she does this high school reunion to Donna Summer. She does that whole last dance.
Yeah.
Number. It's so good.
Yeah, I
So
forgot
that movie
about that. I
just
forgot
makes
about
me
the
feel
dancing.
so
Yeah,
happy.
and the first one has Tom Green in it as well, playing just because I
Huh?
think at the time he was
Chad?
engaged to Barrymore. Yeah,
Yeah. Was it the Chad?
the chat is great.
Chad was
Yeah,
lovely. Yeah, Chad was great.
yeah.
That movie just makes me so happy. It's just such a feel for me, it's such a feel-good movie. Like it really it does wonders for my for my positivity in life.
No, I'm glad you brought it up. We haven't had Charlie's Angels come up either, so you brought two movies to the show, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Um, which begs the question, Carl. What's last? What do we got left? This is a killer list. I don't know what's coming up.
Okay, so we're going a little classic. I mean, not super classic, but 80s classic.
Mm,
I put Dirty Dancing. Dirty Dancing is one of
of
my
course.
all-time favorites. And this one is interesting for me because I added this kind of last minute, and for some reason, I don't know. It's not that the movie is not memorable. Clearly, it is. It's in my top five, but it's always one that I forget how much I love it.
Mm.
And then I like the soundtrack is perfect. I get emotional. I cry at the end every damn time, like as if I've never seen it. It also is like such a fantasy life for me. I'm like, that looks like my dream summer. Like, please put me in the Catskills in the summer in my cute little 1950s dresses and let me fall in love with Patrick Swayze. Like, it's like it's just like a dream. And I watched that movie a lot as a kid too. Like that was something actually we talked earlier. That was maybe a movie that I think my mom maybe did show that movie to me. That maybe in like her one contribution to my movie love. But I love it so much. And it's on TV a lot. And every time it's on TV, I stop and I watch and I get emotional every time. Like
Nice.
also, it's probably my favorite movie soundtrack. Like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head a soundtrack I like better, and I can't think of one. Like, every single song is, they did such a great job of blending the 1950s, some of the classics in there, and then the 80s. We got She's Like the Wind, and
Mm.
uh, I've Had the Time of My Life, and Hungry Eyes. Hungry Eyes is one of my favorite songs ever, man. That whole sequence is fantastic.
Mhm. So this is the first one on your list I haven't seen. I know it's
What?
I know blasphemy. I one thing I learned on the podcast is we the first thing we did was go through everyone's favorite movies, and then we did an 80s section. Everyone kept bringing up Dirty Dancing. I was like, oh my god, I've got to watch Dirty Dancing. I hadn't seen for the 90s. I hadn't seen Pretty Woman, so I've finally seen Pretty Woman. But
Okay.
like I'm catching up. So Dirty Dancing is definitely on my list. I just haven't got to it yet. But I'm aware of
Oh my
how
God.
iconic it is, and I think also like the reason it's taken me so long is during my teens and definitely my teens and probably through the first half of my 20s is I was like, why would I ever watch that? Doesn't appeal to me at all. Like that's not my jam.
Yeah.
I was very pretentious, very snobby. I'm like, why would I watch that? Whereas now I'm like, just show me everything. I want to watch everything.
Yeah.
So, which is a great attitude to have, but it means that you have like three times as many movies to watch because previously I was filtering them out, but I'm like, not for me. So it is on my list for sure. I do want to check out Dirty Dancing.
It's so good. It just holds up so well. Like it's just one of those 80s again, kind of like it's just such a feel-good movie. You watch it and it's so nostalgic, but it's funny because it's almost nostalgic for two different decades. It's nostalgic for the 80s, obviously, because it's an 80s movies and is an 80s movie, but also it takes place in like I think my either 50s or the early 60s. I forget the top of my head
Mm,
which summer it is. It's a specific year. But it's also such a hark back to those days, and it's just like with the fashion and the cars and everything. Like it's fantastic, and I love that movie so much. So yeah, you got to watch it. Put that on your queue. Add that to your library.
absolutely. Well, I'm
That could be
constantly
date night
ordering.
with your wife.
Yeah, I'm constantly ordering stuff that I can catch up on. So I'm always watching new things or like first time viewing. So it's on the list for sure. I just have to get to it. So yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole Netflix has a series called, you've probably watched it, called The Movies That Made Us, and it's like in-depth kind of hour-long specials about some of the classic movies, and they have one about Dirty Dancing, and I cried even just watching the making of it.
I don't
But
think I have watched that series. I know the series is around because I did the toys that made us first. I think I watched a
oh
couple of
yeah,
toy
yeah.
ones, but I haven't watched the movies that made us yet. So you've just reminded me of a show that I really wanted to watch. So I've got to add that to the list for me.
So it's good because they talk in it about the relationship between Jennifer Grey, who plays Baby, and Patrick Swayze, who plays Johnny.
Mm.
And on screen, they have just so much intense chemistry. Like that's one of the things that makes the movie so great. Is you can tell, I'm like, oh my god, these people were like so into each other. But if you
Mm.
look at the making of the movie, is they really kind of fought like brother and sister the whole time they were making the movie. I think the movie kind of the commentary kind of was like they kind of came to a place where they really did have a love for one another, but there was a lot of kind of fighting on set, I think, especially in the beginning.
Well,
But it's
wasn't
so
he very much an accomplished dancer, and she really wasn't? And wasn't that a big point of contention for them?
I think so, but that also, if that's the case, that's literally the plot line of the movie is he's like
Mm.
a dance instructor at a resort, at a mountain resort, and the age thing is a little weird, and I'm gonna look past that, but she's like a 16-year-old girl who fills in for him basically because his partner, well, she let's just say she gets sick, but basically she gets sick, she has like a botched abortion, and she can't compete with him anymore, which is kind of a dark part of the movie, but Baby
But a
basically fills.
staple of 80s film. Like one
Yeah.
thing that when we were doing our 80s segment, like I was shocked how many movies we talked about that like abortion came up. Like I think like two movies on my list had abortions in them. I was like, oh my god, like which
Yeah,
is it's interesting. Like and another one I haven't seen, but I know is gets quite dark is Fame, and it feels like for a long time, unless it's independent film, studios aren't making movies like that anymore. They're too afraid to kind of broach those more controversial subjects, which I think is a real shame. Like I'm not saying every film should be about abortion, but at the same time, like you don't have to hide from it. Like if it enhances the
right.
story, like yeah.
Well, it's funny because, like, as a kid, I watched that movie, I did not understand what was happening,
Mm,
and in the movie, she gets, like, the John Patrick Swayze's, like, main dancer, they're not dating or anything, it's just his dance partner. She gets money to go get an abortion because she wants she has to do it in secret because obviously the time period in place.
mm.
And as a kid, I didn't understand that. I just thought she got, like, the flu, and then there was a period where I was like, I must have been watching as a teenager, and it clicked. I'm like, "Oh, shit, she's pregnant." I was like, "I understand now. This movie is a lot more mature than I realized it was."
Such a
Um,
different movie if it's just the flu. Like,
yeah, exactly. I didn't
why
understand
didn't everyone
the
else get sick? How come she can't dance anymore?
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's just a classic, and I love Dirty Dancing. So, yeah, you gotta watch that one for sure.
100%. It's on my list. And every time someone comes on and talks about it, they're always selling me on it. Like, and I'm not a hard sell. Like, if you tell me you're passionate about it, like, I can get behind that. But yeah, like, you've just reminded me of something that I really need to catch up on. So, definitely on my to do list.
Yeah.
That's a great list, Kyle. I love all of it. Like,
That was a lot of work. Like I started this list when you first reached out to me a couple weeks ago. I was like, I'm gonna start this list. And I knew over the couple weeks that I was like, I kind of tweaked it around a little bit, kind of moved things up and down. I was like trying to work on it. And watch, I promise you 2 weeks from now, I'm gonna be like, oh shit, I just thought of a movie that probably would be my
of
top five.
course. Of
Yeah.
course. You always do. We're currently,
Yeah.
with my regulars, we're currently doing our favorite movies of the 2000s. And that's become such a gargantuan task for us because that was our formative years. That's when we all started really watching movies because we were
Yeah.
teenagers. And it's like, how do you even begin? So I'm very
Yeah.
aware of how unfair the format of the show is, but that's the fun of it for me. I'm like, yeah, like we're putting the pressure on. See if
Yeah.
you can list five. Did you have any honorable mentions? Anything that you wanted to shout out?
I did. Man, I wrote down a kind of a lot here, but I was like, okay, these are not all of them. But um one of them for sure, and this is I would say this, let me start here. This is the one that moved up and down a lot. Like, this is
Mm,
one that I was like, Dirty Dancing ended up kicking it out of the spot, but I do wanna, like I mentioned it earlier, I touched on it earlier, I do wanna shout out The Ring. The Ring is, like, one of my
yeah.
favorite movies, and I have always described it as, like, a perfect movie. Like, I think it's perfectly acted, perfectly scored, perfectly shot. Like, everything about it is so haunting to me, and I think it's
Mm.
just I love it, and I think it's held up really well, and I that was one for me, I was like, "Oh, man." It was up and down, up and down, up and down, 'cause I've it's not necessarily one that I throw on to feel great or to, like I don't necessarily have it on all the time. I mean, I've seen it so many times over the years, but it is one that I really think is a really strong movie.
100%. Like I think that was 2002, and that was when I guess like Japanese horror, like obviously Japanese horror had been around for a long time, but that's when like it started to break through to the US market.
Yep.
And everyone was, because that's, we had that, and then The Grudge, and like all those other ones as well.
Yeah, The Ring
And the
definitely kind of catapulted a big trend there.
Yeah, and The Ring was one that like everyone was talking about in school. Like that's the one that everyone was like, you
Yeah.
got to see it. It's so scary. It's so messed up. And I'm trying to remember the girl who played Samara. She was in something else, and I was like,
She's Lilo and
"That's what
Lilo
it
and
is." Yeah, she's the
yeah,
voice of
which is
Lilo.
so crazy to me. And then once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Like when
Yeah.
it shows those flashback scenes of Samara at the hospital,
Mm.
like all I hear is Lilo, and I'm like, oh my God. And Lilo and Stitch is my favorite Disney movie, so I'm like,
It's so good.
coincidentally,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, nice. That's a great one as well. The Ring. I haven't seen it in a long time, but yeah, that's a dark one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to shout out in the honorable mentions?
Yeah. I maybe I'll do this as a grouping because it's there's like a couple like early 2000s like kind
Yeah.
of comedies that like I am obsessed with, but like these are some of the ones that like my babysitter showed me. Like obviously, Clueless is one of them. I mean, that's obviously 90s, but Clueless
Yep.
is a favorite of mine, and I love that movie. Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion is one I quote
Mm-hmm.
all the time. I love humor like that that is just so stupid, and
Yep.
I love quotable movies that kind of have their own language. Like, I think that's what draws me into a lot of like comedies is like Clueless has a language that like what that dialogue you couldn't put anywhere else in any other movie in the world.
Yeah.
They kind of created their own language, and so did Romeo and Michelle. Like the way that that Lisa Kudrow and Mira Sorvino talk, I'm like, it's just perfect. Like it's just so good, and I love those kind of character comedies where the people are so strange.
Yeah.
Um, and also Superstar with Molly Shannon.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. Superstar's great.
Um, and yeah, and I will say the last one, but like I'm a big Britney Spears fan.
Crossroads.
So Crossroads is like I that was another one. I was like the Ring and Crossroads. I kept bringing up and down, up and down. I was like, I'm so sorry. I love Crossroads so much, but it really, and here's the thing about Crossroads is I think everyone wants it to be so bad and everyone wants her to be terrible in it. And like it's so funny because it's written by Shonda Rhimes, who, as we all know, is like now one
Yeah.
of the big writers in Hollywood. But this was
Queen
like
of Hollywood. Yeah. Like.
and it's just so funny. This is a Shonda Rhimes project, and no one really knows that.
Mm.
But everyone I have shown Crossroads to, and I think Crossroads has kind of had a resurgence because it's finally on streaming and it just came back to theaters for like a limited engagement. And I think people are finally starting to kind of accept it. But everyone I've shown it to is always like, wait, this is actually way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Paris Hilton went through the same thing. Like she was in House of Wax, and like the whole
Yeah.
marketing was like, watch Paris Hilton get killed. Like that's how they were selling it. But she's really good in it, and she was also in Repo: The Genetic Opera, and she's fantastic in
Yeah.
it. Like she's.
Yeah. Have you seen Crossroads?
I haven't seen Crossroads. And
Okay. Well,
again, like
that's got put on Netflix, so you can watch it.
it'll be hopefully it's on the Australian Netflix, because our Netflix doesn't get the same
I
stuff that
know
you
the
guys do.
streaming things are different. I know. So that's why I
Yeah.
was like, not sure. But Britney's good in it. Like, it's also a very star-studded cast. Obviously,
Mm.
Britney is the lead, but there's Zoe Saldana is in it. And oh my God, why can't I think of her name? But the girl from Orange is the New Black. Why can't I think of her name right now?
It's like Piper
No,
someone.
it's the girl that plays Pennsatucky in Orange is the New Black, the meth head with the
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. She was in
oh my
Hot
God, I
Water recently for
cannot
doing
think of
something.
her name right
I
now.
know
I'm so
exactly who you're talking about as well,
yeah.
and I'm blanking as well.
Oh my
Um,
she's
l-
in it, and Dan Aykroyd's in it. Kim Cattrall from Sex and the City is in it. Like it has these really
Taryn
big
Manning.
Taryn Manning, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Yes. And Taryn Manning's great in this movie, so I really love Crossroads and yeah, and there's a couple other horror movies that like just off the top like The Shining is one a great one that I
Yeah.
love, that I have posters of The Shining in here. Jennifer's Body, Nightmare
Nice.
on Elm Street, like those are probably like the runner-ups of movies of horror movies in particular that I would say are like top 15 for me. But it was so hard. I like read this list off to my boyfriend earlier and he was like, "Kyle, these are the craziest lists. Like
Yeah.
You have Romeo and Michelle next to The Shining." And I'm
Yeah.
like, look, that's like my exact personality, okay? Like two ends of the spectrum here. I'm watching Crossroads, Romeo and Michelle, or I'm watching The Shining and Scream 6, okay? Like
No, that's like that's. that's what loving film is all about, though. Like, you are going to have, like, I can tell you, like, Michael, because obviously we both know Michael, like, his top five list had Titanic. Actually, he didn't put any horror in there, actually, because we did a horror episode separately. But he had Titanic and Lady Bird and Bring It On, like, but then he loves like the Saw movies and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. I think that again, like if I were to just like focus in on horror, my list would be, different. Like I think
Mm.
Halloween Scream would be at the top, but I think there you would see a lot more horror movies on that. But I was trying to think like really like trying to be as like baseline as I can. What are the movies that have impacted me the most, that I watched the most, that I've grown up with the most? And like those top five I'm pretty happy with. I'm like, okay, those ones I think do a pretty good job of representing at least, especially for Charlie's Angels. I'm like, look, that's my sense of humor. And you can bet that any movie that's gonna have humor like that, I probably like.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like
So
my top five has Back to the Future and Midsommar in it. So I know what you're
okay, what's
talking
your
about.
top five?
Like,
What's your full top five?
so it's Clerks, Hot Fuzz, Kill Bill 1 and 2, Midsommar, and Back to the Future.
Okay. All right. Now, do you between Kill Bill 1 and 2, do you like them equally or do you like one more?
I probably have a special place in my heart for part one because that was the first Tarantino film I ever saw,
Yeah.
and I just love the visual style of it, and I love the action of it all. But I think two has some really great moments in it. But I always watch whenever I watch Kill Bill 1, I watch part two straight afterwards. I always watch them as double feature. So
Yeah, I love that's probably my favorite Tarantino movie, which by the way, real quick, side note, for living in LA, I really don't have that necessarily many celebrity encounters. Like, and if I do, they're really like D-list people that no one would ever know. And I'm like, oh my God, that person was in an episode of Supernatural 20 years ago. And I'm like, but I used to work at a restaurant when I was trying to do the acting thing right after college, and I worked at this like rooftop restaurant on Sunset Boulevard, and on my very last shift, on my very last day, because I was quitting because I actually got my job on Let's Make a Deal. Literally the last 20 minutes I was there, I had never had a celebrity come in, and Quentin Tarantino walks in by himself, comes right up to my host stand, and I was like, oh my! I was keeping it cool, but I was like, okay, and it was right before Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out. It was
oh wow.
like that same month that was coming out. So he was very much in the news, in the cycle, in the press. And he came up in like the most classic Tarantino garb, like black shirt, blue jeans, and he had the yellow glasses on. And he just walked in. It was like a Friday at like 4 p.m. and he was super nice and he was just like, "Hey, can I just like get us table?" And I was like, "Yeah, for sure." And I was like, and he was like, "Actually," so I put him at a table, like it was a sunset, it was, I mean, sorry, it was like a rooftop restaurant, so he wanted to sit by the railing, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah." I was like, of course, all the reservations I had, I was like, delete, delete, delete. I was like, he's gonna get in wherever he wants. And I put him at a table, and I remember he came back and he's like, "Actually, I think I want to go sit at the bar. Is it okay if I give up my table to go sit at the bar?" I was like, "Yeah, for sure, man." And I didn't say anything. I wasn't like, "Oh my God, I'm a fan." I just kind of,
You weren't
I was like,
like, "Do you want a $5 milkshake?" Like, just
"Yeah,
trying to
exactly,
like make it.
exactly." And so he went up to the bar, and it was just one of those moments, so where it was like really the only time I've seen it, and I where I was walking him to his table in the room, and it wasn't a very big restaurant, but like every single head turned. Like every
Yeah.
single person was like "Whoop," just like looked and saw and stared at him. And there was one guy I ended up there was like a table of like kind of younger, I mean, like they were like in their 30s, kind of LA bros that I definitely knew who he was. And when he sat down, I was like kind of watching it on my peripheral. Like one of them came up to his table and I was like, oh man, like just let this dude eat. Like it just
Mm,
was like maybe he totally didn't mind, but my own perspective was just like, I just want him to like chill. I don't want a bunch of
mm.
people coming up to him while he's just trying to have lunch or whatever here by himself. But anyways, this guy came up to him and I could overhear a little bit of the conversation, but dude, Tarantino ended up like vibing with this guy. This guy was just telling him how big of a fan he was. And then Tarantino went sat with his friends and they all just like
That's
vibed for
cool.
like hours. Like he just joined their group and just like hung out with these guys for like, I mean, until I was done with my shift, but they were there for a long time. And anyways, very memorable last day, but he's one of my favorite celebrity encounters that I'll definitely never forget because I'm a fan of his, and that's definitely probably the biggest name that I've seen just like randomly on the streets, not in an event
Yeah, I
or
mean, it
anything.
doesn't get much bigger. That's pretty cool. We've
Yeah.
that's the beauty of living in LA is you will hopefully if you get a chance, you'll get to cross paths with someone. When I was in LA, I didn't see anyone, uh,
Yeah.
which I think
It's
is
cool 'cause,
is
like,
pretty common. Yeah.
I've gone to events and, like, I've gone to tapings of shows where obviously I've gone to it's one thing to kinda see celebrities in a place, like, where you expect them to be, but that was, like, shocking because I was like, totally caught off guard. I was like, I was like folding napkins and I'm like, hey, yeah, come on in.
Mm,
Like,
that's so cool.
yeah.
Nice one, man. What a way to end your list. It's like, by the way, I
By the way,
encountered.
let me drop this little nugget of information for you.
You thought Wayne Brady was a big name. Just hold on to your
Right,
hats.
right.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's a great list. I love all of that, Kyle. Before we get out of here, I did warn you there's a rapid fire question round.
Yeah,
So
let's do it.
if you listen to the podcast, you know what's coming. If you haven't, that's even better.
Okay.
And it's just about like what you like your movie watching habits and stuff like that. So
Okay.
first of all, Kyle, what was the last movie you watched?
I watched this horror movie called The Void.
Oh, how was that?
Have you heard of it?
I've seen the poster artwork for it. I used to work in retail and we'd sell Blu-rays,
Okay.
and it was like a big like a door with like tentacles coming out or something. I think that's the
Yeah.
one. Yeah, how was it?
Um, it was weird and I liked it. And I read online people really didn't like it, but I thought I don't know. I liked it. I thought I liked it. Really, if you're gonna watch it, go in watching it for the practical effects. They do a lot of really cool, kind of like old school Hellraiser slash The Thing. It's very much an ode to like 80s practical effects, monster stuff, and they do some really cool things in it. So,
That's awesome.
the storyline is kind of weird. Like it got kind of sci-fi at the end for me. Like I wasn't crazy about that, but visually it was dope. So go in watching it for the makeup that they do on these people.
That sounds cool. Nice one.
Yeah.
Um, and on the other side of things, what's been sitting on your watch list forever? So what's one of those movies you keep putting off? You know you want to watch it. You know you're gonna like it. You just haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
Um, Okay. Well, just because it's very timely, Oppenheimer.
Okay, sure.
The Oscars are happening tomorrow. I mean, I guess you said that you'll know you'll like. I don't know if I know I will love it, but it's just one of those movies that I know I need to see. Everyone's
Yeah.
talking about it. It's a Christopher Nolan film. I know it's nominated for many million things at the Oscars tomorrow night, so I probably won't watch it in time for that. But it's literally been sitting here in my Peacock app queue, and I just haven't gotten the courage to start a 3 hour movie.
Yeah.
Um, I know I need to pay attention to. So I need to watch Oppenheimer.
No, nice one. It's a
Yeah.
good one. Like it's I like it quite a bit. Like it's very different for Nolan like, because he's never done a biopic before. He's never done it. I would say like most of his stuff he makes it tends to be quite exciting. And whilst the idea behind it, like is it's the race to the atomic bomb and stuff like that, it's very unlike anything he's done before. I always say he's shot a biopic like it's an action film, which I think is a really interesting mashup.
Yeah.
And so some of the story stuff, especially in the third act, is incredible. Like yeah, it's really
Yeah.
good.
No, I think I will like it because I'm a fan of his other work and it's such a cultural phenomenon and I love movies when they become kind of a cultural phenomenon like that.
Mm,
Like I like being a part of the fun. So I do need to I did see Barbie in theater. That's a little bit more of my style that I knew I'd rush to the movie theater to see,
mm.
but Oppenheimer, I do need to check that out.
Nice, man. And I think I know the answer to this one already, but are you a movie crier?
Yes.
Yeah.
I never that's the joke is I literally never cry in real life. Like I can't remember the last time I cried about a real life situation. I've been sad, of course, but all I have to do is like see someone slightly frown at a movie and I'll cry.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm exactly the same. I was just saying
yeah,
to someone before, like I very rarely cry in real life. I can't remember the last time in the last decade I cried, with the exception of the birth of my daughter.
yeah.
But aside from that, like I don't cry in real life, but movies, like drop of a hat. And so
It's like my like
if I feel like I need to cry, I'm like, all right, which movie am I going to get? Like if I need to like
yeah,
blow off some steam or like get some tears out, which one am I going to get? The Big Sick is a good one to go to. I find that one makes me cry
oh,
quite a
there
bit.
you go.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's like almost like a psychological thing. Like my brain is it's like my brain is allowing me permission to just vent.
mm,
Um, and it's not always sad things. Sometimes I cry, like I get like maybe not full on cry, but like I'll get my teary eyed at something like if something really like moves me in like even just an artistic way, I'm like, oh, that was epic, and like I'll get a
yeah.
little excited, like,
Yeah,
oh,
I'll
that
get
was
that.
so
Yes,
well
I'll get
done.
that as well. Yeah, I love that
Yeah,
sort
or
of
that I'm
stuff.
so happy. Like it's not always depressing, but like yeah, I cry, tear up a lot at movies and TV.
In
So
fact, I would say for me, it's more often than not, it's often more happy things that make me cry in films. Like I remember a movie I watched during the pandemic, and I put it on just like I knew previously I would never be interested in it, but I'm like, I'll give it a go. Like, why not? That movie Instant Family with Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne. I was
oh, I haven't
crying
seen
from
that.
start to
Yeah.
finish in that flick.
Oh,
Um, it's because it's all about like just children wanting to have a family and like parents who can't have children wanting to have a family. And it's just so
yeah.
beautiful. And I never would have watched it before the pandemic, but I was trying to change my headspace. I was trying to be less judgy of films and just give everything a go. And Instant Family, like just
Oh,
ticked all the
that's
boxes.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I think you've covered this as well, but is there any particular actor or actress that you'll follow anywhere? It doesn't matter what the movie is, they're in it, you're watching it.
Yes, well, like I said earlier, Cameron Diaz is definitely one of them, and
Hmm.
she's kinda semi-retired right now, so that's very depressing for me. But let me try to think of some others. I love, love, love Patrick Wilson from The Conjuring,
Yes.
from Annabelle.
Yes.
He's probably my like, I'm trying to off the top of my head, he's my favorite probably male actor that I can think of. Um, like we mentioned, I love Parker Posey. I've always really loved, Jennifer Coolidge, some comedy queens.
Yes.
Kind of so happy because I've been a fan of Jennifer's for so long. I'm glad she's finally gotten her kind of awards, that the general public is really realizing how fantastic she is. Trying to think, anyone else? Oh, maybe something a little bit more modern is I really love Jenna Ortega. She's doing a lot of great
Yeah,
stuff,
she's great.
and she's someone I always really get excited to see. So, yeah, those are some people I really like.
Those are all really great. And you're right about
Yeah.
Jennifer Coolidge. I saw something the other day, and someone was like, Jennifer Coolidge plays Stifler's mum in the movie. She was, at the time, she was 38. Chances are, if you're saying this, you're older than Stifler's mum was. I'm like, damn it,
Yeah.
I am close. I am
Yeah,
close to.
yeah. Oh, one more I can think of real quick is Bill Skarsgård, and he's coming out with that new Crow
Yes.
reboot, which I know is kind of controversial because people didn't like those new first set pictures or first look pictures. But in general, Bill Skarsgård has been someone that I really enjoyed seeing on
He's
screen.
fantastic. And yeah, I never understand that. It's like, first of all, apparently, it's very actually more faithful to the original source material than even Brandon Lee was. But also,
Yeah.
it's like that doesn't mean anything. Like until you see it in action, like how can you judge? Like
The
people like
pictures that
yeah.
I feel like I wasn't getting enough material. I don't feel like I'm ready to jump to a full assessment because I couldn't even tell if he was in like, the pictures they released almost looked like they hadn't gotten to the that he hadn't fully transformed into the Crow yet. Like, it
Mm,
looked like the beginning of the movie, so I felt like I was like, "I can't really judge it the way everyone else is because I felt
mm.
like they purposely were showing us, like, the first couple minutes of the movie, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like yeah, it's so weird the backlash. It always happens, especially with
It happens
superhero
all the
stuff.
time.
Especially
Yeah,
with
it
superheroes,
happens
like
all the
the casting, like people lose their minds over. And it's like no one wanted Heath Ledger to be the Joker. And whether you like comic book movies or not, I think universally most people will agree The Dark Knight's a pretty good movie, and Ledger's
Oh,
excellent in it.
100%.
Like, do you know what I mean? You don't have to be a Batman fan to like that movie.
Yeah.
Excellent. We don't have to be negative. Obviously, this is a very positive show. We celebrate everything. But what is the worst movie you've ever seen?
Uh, oh my god. Here's the thing is I actually, like, I'm really gonna try to think of an answer for you, but I really don't hate a lot of movies. Like,
Me too.
I usually even if I don't necessarily love something, I'm usually just more, like, middle ground about it versus being like, "I fucking hated it."
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of, okay, let me think. Um
We could rephrase it. I could just say, what's the movie that disappointed you most? Maybe it's not the worst movie, but it was one you were really hoping for, but it disappointed you.
Well, let me maybe phrase it this way. I like am not really a big let me just I'm not a big found footage movie
Me
guy. I
too.
don't
Yeah.
love found footage. So this might be kind of a broad answer, but like the paranormal activity movies do nothing for me. And I
I
would
just had this
rather,
conversation on the last episode. It's so funny that
yeah,
you.
like, I appreciate what particularly the original Paranormal Activity, like, I appreciate the success that it had, for having no budget, like, I don't wanna, like, slam the artistry of that movie, but, like, I just have 0 interest in revisiting. I watched the first one for sure, I may have watched the second one, and I know there's, like, 3 or 4 after that, and I just have 0 interest in returning to that franchise,
Yeah.
um, just because I don't find it exciting, I find it like watching paint dry.
No, I'm with you. Like, and that's my thing. I was saying this in the last episode as well. Like, if we can give Paranormal Activity credit for anything, and this is a really big like kind of commendation, is that without that franchise, Blumhouse wouldn't exist. Like
That's true. Yeah.
so they're instrumental in getting that that studio off the ground, and they've produced some wonderful horror over the last 2 decades. So they definitely can
Yeah,
take credit for that.
exactly.
I'm with
Like, the
you.
first one, I'm like, yeah, I totally like it's one of the most successful movies ever if you look at how much it cost to make versus how much it made. So I don't want to downplay that at all
Mm.
because they fucking hit it out of the park, clearly. Just for me personally, I'm like, I just found the camera quality, the shakiness, it's a lot of things like that, I can't get into it. It takes me out of it.
Yeah, me too. And the thing I was saying to my last guest, I was saying to her, I was like, the thing with found footage, the reason I generally don't like it, I don't. There are definitely exceptions to the rule, but like the
Yeah.
thing is that just like how everyone thinks they can make a horror film because it's cheap, everyone really thinks they can make a found footage horror film because it's cheap. And
Exactly.
it's
You're
like,
right. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
again, the example I used, I haven't seen it, but was Skinamarink. I haven't seen that, but I've heard that that one was very much just footage of walls for like 90 minutes.
I've heard that too. It's so strange. I haven't seen that either, but yeah, there are some exceptions. Like there are for sure some exceptions to the found footage thing that I do like, but as a rule of thumb, it's not my favorite genre or my favorite
mm,
kind of subgenre of horror. And yeah, specifically because Paranormal Activity became so big for so long, that was just one franchise I really was like, not for me as much
yeah.
as I.
Yeah, I would say like the Wreck films. If you've ever seen those ones, the Spanish horror films, Wreck and
Okay,
Wreck
yeah,
Two, really good found footage films. And I just watched the Hell House series on Shudder
I
like in
do.
the last month.
I've seen the first Hell House and I thought it was actually very scary. I was
Yeah,
surprised how scary I thought. I haven't seen the sequels, but the first Hell House I think is actually really well done. That's one of the ones I'll stand by. I was like, okay, that one I actually really was scared by.
yeah, it was legitimately scary, and also they found a way to continue building the lore throughout the films. Like they just pepper in little details, and you don't. I watched four first because I watched it for Michael's show, so I had a 2023 horror film to talk about, and I was surprised how scary it was. And then when I watched one through three over the last couple of weeks, I was like, oh my goodness, like they've been planting little seeds bit by bit in the movies. And I don't know whether they always intended for there to be more movies or whether he was just like, I'm just going to leave this here, and if I get a chance to come back to it,
Yeah.
I can build on it later. But yeah, I thought it was really well done. Um, nice one, nice one. I'll accept that answer. I'm with you on that. Fan footage just isn't my
Okay.
jam. And then last question: what movie do you think they should never ever remake?
Okay, that's a really um never ever remake. Um oh man, I'm sure there's a million I could think of. Um I think that they should. Let's say, because I'm staring at the poster right now in my room, I think that they should never remake The Shining. I think that was kind of a moment in time, can't be done again. And I know Stephen King did remake it into like a mini series, which I actually haven't
Ah, that doesn't
seen.
count. That's a miniseries, it's not a movie. It's all good.
Yeah, but I just think it's too specific and niche, and you're never gonna get that tone again. You're never gonna get those performances again. Now, I will say I love Doctor Sleep, but it's a
Mm,
sequel, not a remake, so I
yeah,
won't count that. Doctor Sleep, I think, is really fantastic, but in terms of a true remake, trying to make it more like a modern day artist, a modern day director or actors doing it again, I just think you're never gonna get that magic again
yeah.
twice.
I agree. I
You
don't know who you would cast. Like trying to think. Like I was actually just talking about The Shining on the last episode as well because we were talking about the differences between the book and the movie. But like I don't know who you would cast in any of those roles.
know, and
Um,
I don't know anyone I don't know either. Yeah, I read the book too, you're right, there is a lot of differences, but and also, I'm someone with The Shining that I think okay, not to shit on Jack Nicholson, I'm not saying he's not great, and I think that he does do a really I think there's a lot of great things about his performance, but I personally feel like I think the scene stealer is Shelley Duvall in that movie.
very underrated. Very
I think she
underrated.
is like if she wasn't as good as she is, that movie would not have sold the way in terms of like audiences buying into it. She's
Yeah.
the one you're watching the movie through because she's the normal person, let's say.
Yeah.
And if she wasn't so fucking awesome in that movie, then it wouldn't land. And so I am on Team Shelley Duvall, and I think Jack Nicholson gets too much credit for the success of that film.
I agree with you actually, and what I was saying was the biggest difference between the book and the movie is that in the book, Jack Torrance isn't a bad guy. Like he's got his flaws and he's made some mistakes, but he is genuinely trying to be a good person and help his family. But like the Overlook just infects him and he becomes it's this descent into madness. The minute you see
Exactly.
Jack Nicholson on screen, you're like, oh yeah, he's the bad guy. Like there's no
Well,
two ways around it.
that's kind of my issue with I mean, that's actually Stephen King's like number one issue with the book is
Yeah,
that with the movie, I mean, is that Jack Nicholson's character starts off crazy. And
yeah,
that's when you're watching the movie, it's like from that very first clip of him in the interview, he's like crazy eyes staring at his interviewer. And I'm like,
mm,
does yeah kind of downplay the fact that it's he obviously gets crazier, but like if he started off as a more normal lovable dad who has demons for sure, and the Overlook is kind of bringing out those demons and totally kind of like ruining his mental psyche, I think it would have been more effective, which I'm not Jack Nicholson is still fantastic, and I mean,
Mm.
he's scary as shit, and like he'll go down as one of the greatest horror villains ever. But that is something that I think the movie could have done a little bit better. It's kind of like showing the arc of like, oh, you went from someone's dad to now you're a murderer.
I just thought, and this is going to be unexpected, and I think people are going to find it somewhat controversial. Maybe not. I'll tell you who I think would be a really good Jack Torrance if they were to remake it is Paul Dano.
Who's that? Oh, is that the guy from Little Miss Sunshine?
Yes, and he was in
Okay,
Ruby
yes,
Sparks, and he was just played the Riddler in the Batman. But he's so like chill,
yes,
and he's in There Will Be Blood as well. He's very like calm and understated, but like,
yes,
and he was in the Fablemans, but he has this darkness about him. I think he'd be really
totally.
good actually.
I
Um,
can see that. That's good. That's very good.
but anyway, but we're saying we're not going to remake The Shining, so Paul Dano, don't pick up your phone. It's fine.
Don't get your hopes up. Yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully
sorry, mate.
you'll have it
um,
fine. Yeah, we'll find other projects for you.
Nolan did say the next thing he wants to work on is horror, so maybe he could remake The Shining. He's got that kind of attention to detail that Kubrick had. So,
That's
um,
true.
that is it, Kyle. You've survived your first bout of the show.
I did it. All
Yeah.
right.
So thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for your fantastic list and your wonderful answers. It's been really lovely to have a chat and get to know
Thank you
you
for
more.
having me. Thanks for letting me ramble. If there's one thing I love to do, it's talk about myself and things I love. So that was a great opportunity
That's
today.
that's that, that's what this is, just a platform for that.
Yeah,
So you've
exactly.
met the
Thank you
brief
so much.
expertly. Before we get out of here, is there anything you want to plug? You want to let people know where they can find you on social media, stuff like that?
Oh yeah, sure. My TikTok is I go by Screaming King Kyle on that. I talk mostly about horror movies, but I do talk about some other nostalgic hits that we all love that I love growing up with. And so you can definitely, check me out there. And I'm on Instagram. I think my handle on there is just it's Kyle Trevor, which is more just like my personal life. I do talk about horror movies a little bit, but yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Everyone, go and follow Kyle. He's such a lovely guy, and his content's very, very fascinating and exciting. So go check him out. And if you haven't listened to the show where Kyle and I first met on We Love Horror, go back and check that out. It was the first episode back for Michael in quite some time. It's 4.5 hours long, and it's so much fun. So
So buckle up. Yeah, get your
yeah,
popcorn ready.
that's it. Absolutely. So go support Kyle. If you want to support me, you can jump on Instagram. I was a teenage film snob _ between every single word. I'm doing less kind of photo content at the moment. I'm doing a lot more videos, so you'll see me do unboxing videos. I'm doing little reviews, stuff like that. You can check out the show wherever you find your podcasts. And if you want to support the show financially, you can head to tpublic.com. You can buy a t-shirt. Just search for I Was a Teenage Film Snob, or search for it in my socials. Not my socials, my bio. Sorry, it's been a long morning. I've been up since 6 or 7. And you can buy one there. I don't make any money off it, but they're great t-shirts. They're comfy. They look good. They were designed by one of our friends, Josh, who comes to the show quite a bit. And first-time buyers get 20% off. So it's win, 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 and the show gets some recognition. So go and do that. That is it. Thank you again to Kyle Poppert for coming on the show. Lovely having you on, and he's welcome back anytime. But until then, we'll wrap things up. So as I say every single week on this show, guys, I was a teenage film snob, but I'm trying to be better. We'll see you next week.